press start.
Welcome. It is Current Gen Podcast, and this is actually episode 176. Yeah, I said that
Yes.
right.
Yes.
176. But this is actually like a special podcast because we're actually going to make this, even though it's our weekly episode, we're going to make it all about Final Fantasy 16. It's going to be our official spoiler cast. Usually when I watch spoiler casts, they always like warn the people watching, even though it's in the title, that there's going to be spoilers. I am not going to warn any listener. If you are listening to this episode that is titled Final Fantasy 16 Spoiler Cast, and you get mad that you get spoiled, you're an idiot. So there will be no warning.
You understand this is the warning, right?
Yeah, I was going to say acknowledging this is the warning, but I agree with everything you're saying, though. Sure.
I get so annoyed. Like,
we don't need to get in the weeds about it. I agree.
All right, so before we kick it off, but that's what we're going to be doing. Let's introduce everybody that's here. Kyle, how you doing?
Doing great. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing awesome. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Yeah.
Next on the roster, Jeff. How you doing?
Privyet. Hello.
What?
That's Russian.
I was gonna say
put him in jail.
Yeah,
put him in jail.
We can't do that. We don't like
Straight to
those guys
jail.
anymore, I
Straight to
think.
jail right away. Straight
like,
to jail right away.
speaking languages I don't understand. And then last but definitely least, our Final Fantasy fanboy.
Definitely least.
Dan.
I'm sorry. Listen, I'm not least because I'm a special boy, okay? I'm a special boy.
I'm a special boy too. I'm a special boy. I'm so special I don't even care about what any of these people beneath me, these little stupid side quest people, I don't care what they're saying. I'm special.
I'm the most important person on earth.
I'm the most important person. All right, so let's just kick this off. The last couple weeks we've been talking about our feelings about Final Fantasy 16, and the entire time that we've been doing it, I know every one of us wanted to do a spoiler cast. This being, in my opinion, the best game to release this year so far, and I would not be surprised for me. I'm only speaking for me personally. If nothing surpasses this, this is the episode I'm going to obviously be the most excited about. So I just want to kick it off. Let's dive into Final Fantasy 16 spoiler talks. Let's talk everything. So the first thing we want to kind of get into is graphics and performance. What are you guys' opinions when you first booted up this game? What's your overall thoughts of art direction, everything, all of it lumped in?
Mid.
Whoever
Next
wants
subject.
to start.
Mid,
subject.
just like the character Mid.
Spoiler. No, I'm just
I like the game. Yeah, right. I like the Game of Thronesy vibe. It's very dark fantasy, European fantasy, medieval fantasy, if you will. I like that they kind of went that route. It gave it kind of a classic feel. But like the way that they design like the icons and stuff like that in this game are so like otherworldly and different iterations of these characters that we've seen before or summons we've seen before in previous games. Maybe there's some likenesses, but like these were all super fresh designs. I don't know. I really think they went out of their way to make sure everything in this game looked unique. Even though there were some kind of familiar vibes, with it being European fantasy. Performance-wise, I mean, it had some slowdown, like it's character action games tend to, sadly. We still haven't fixed that locked FPS yet in these types of games for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Did anybody have like any? I actually had no crashes, which has never happened for any game ever that I've ever played. Did y'all have any issues, freeze ups, save not happening?
I never had any issues. Question for everybody. We'll start with you, Kyle, since you were sharing. Did you play on predominantly performance or graphics?
All graphic, yeah. I played the whole game through graphics mode, yeah.
Okay. All right. I did most of it, like probably 80% of my gameplay was in quality mode. I did do performance when I shifted over for, I think I played a full day, like 6 or 7 hours on my 1080p monitor, and I put it in performance mode, and it looked amazing on 1080. I obviously dropped the PS5 down to 1080p too, so it looked better. It looked great, and it ran smooth. I didn't have any issues hitting 60 the entire time.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah, so I liked playing on both. I obviously, on a big screen, I prefer quality, because for me, the performance mode, it was a downgrade visually, and I'm not a frames per second snob. I'm more of a graphics snob, so I'm always going to pick graphics over performance.
I usually tend to as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. If I have all these nice bells and whistles of TVs and stuff, I might as well put them through.
You want to utilize them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely like obviously when I shifted over to finally being able to do like 60 frames per second, I've mentioned like say with like Miles Morales, for example, like I noticed that obviously.
Yeah.
And I remember switching between like graphics and performance, and I did notice little things like reflections and lighting being better. I don't know if like my eyes weren't working this entire game, but I didn't notice a single difference in performance versus graphical. And I had no slowdowns that I noticed whatsoever the entire time. Like the thing was smooth as fuck.
I also would say it, and I don't know what you play on.
I did performance.
Do matter.
I did performance. Okay, sure.
So it depends on what type of screen, because like I said,
because I
imagine you're playing on 4K, right?
Yeah. Because I have what is it, TCL, right? Is that what it is?
TCL?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, my slowdowns only happened when I did a special and the boss did a special. You would see like the frames like woo, like not like dip hard, but like noticeably,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like I don't care about that type of stuff. Like it doesn't really bother me.
Maybe that's what it is too.
I think I trained my brain to just kind of either see.
I think it's
maybe,
definitely.
And again, it wasn't as frequent as maybe some other people had. I really haven't had my ear to the ground on people's issues.
I
with
don't
this game, to be honest.
think this game had really any performance. To be honest with you, it's a very clean game. In fact, any videos I watched, any nitpicking was literally nitpicking, and they would say it. They'd be like who is it? Digital Foundry was like the occasional dips. Like they're speaking of nitpicking, they'll literally nitpick everything. So if a game is not 60 and it drops to, like you said, 58, and they'll do it. They'll be
I've
like,
seen them do that,
it occasionally drops to 57, 58. I'm like, dude, unless you have a reader, you don't effing know. Stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
Unless you have the thing that shows the number, like, bouncing up and down, so on and so forth. Like,
yeah, but this game, for me, I never felt any dips. I also didn't think graphically it was underwhelming in any way. I thought the art direction was awesome. I thought the fidelity was great. I don't know, man. This
speaks to with the frustrations that I've expressed before on the past couple episodes of people like complaining about this, that, and the other, and it's like people still argue like also the like sci-fi or the dystopian cyberpunk, whatever term you want to throw out there for like say Final Fantasy 8 or 7 or like whatever you would even classify 10 as. Yeah, I don't really know what to call 10, but it's not medieval fantasy,
it's not quite sci-fi either.
Yeah, exactly. But like people have been hankering for a mainline medieval fantasy, high fantasy Final Fantasy game, and we have it. So it's like and this game, I mentioned on the very first time that we talked about it, like literally the goblins that you see in that first fight are like, if you compared it to the pixelated models of, I think it's Final Fantasy 1. It's it's one of the first three, but I think it's one. It's literally practically identical. Like if they just took those pixelated models and then like made them 3D. So it's like this game is literally like a celebration, an homage to the history of this series.
Yeah.
And it's just it baffles me that people don't see these things when they do their hashtag not my Final Fantasy.
I gotta be honest. If I'm not destroying crystals and killing gods, I'm not playing Final Fantasy, and I got both of that. And
if I'm not summoning something, like
I don't know if I ever at once felt this doesn't feel like Final Fantasy, because there's such a barrage of Final Fantasy pillars or tenets or rules or whatever that have to be there. Isms, thank you. Yeah, that plague this entire game in the best way possible. So it's like I don't connect to that at all. These statements of people not finding the Final Fantasy and all this, unless like Final Fantasy just means being an RPG to them. Which
Well,
I guess
right,
those
and-
people exist, yeah.
It's sure, but they're wrong because it's not just one thing, and that's
Yeah.
it's literally like if you wanted to just bullet point, you could list so many, like dozens of things about this
I
game.
think people
Does-
also forget that they reinvent themselves every entry too. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
So it's like there's never been like a reused like battle system
they tweak it in some way, even
in
the
some
first
way,
five.
yeah. And especially these last 6, like from I would say like 7 and on, like all those battle systems are so they reinvented it every single time in major ways. And so I don't know. And like 15, that we all just forget that was an action game too,
Right.
pretty much. It was very
Right.
Kingdom Heartsy and stuff like that. So it's like this felt
Very,
like
very
the actual it felt like a really natural progression. Like, of course, the next game was going to be full action after 15, especially after playing 7 Remake, which was pretty actiony as well, even though they kind of
Yes.
figured out a way to keep a
Mhm.
party in there and stuff like that.
I
But, like,
think speaking of 7, I think 7's like the perfect like
Yeah.
modern day RPG like Final Fantasy like gameplay that you can have. And the reason why is because you do have the action that appeals to, I would say, your younger generation. And well, I mean, I prefer it too, even though I'm not younger. But my point is that it's for, I would say, your modern generation.
Mhm.
But then it still had the strategy and the ability to pause the game and make decisions and use tactics. And we talked about it when we first started talking about Final Fantasy 16. We're like, there's no poison, there's no ways to like
Excellence.
there's none of
Boosts,
there's
Yeah,
none of
buffs,
that. It's
debuffs,
just a
yeah.
straightforward action game, whereas Final Fantasy 7 the remake does a
Had all
great
that,
job
yeah.
of mixing all of that. But here's the thing, and this is bouncing off of what you and Daniel were talking about. Final Fantasy, the franchise, like the main franchise, I'm not talking about sequels and side games. The main franchise never plays it safe. They always tend to go in a direction, but they always go further than what people expect. Like they don't ever just strictly. I'm not saying they don't hear the audience at all. I think they did. I think this game was kind of a reaction to 15 as well. Like they heard the feedback. Like we want a good story. We want awesome characters. We want what Final Fantasy is, and they're like, okay, let's make an absolutely amazing story, and they nailed that. And
I
then
mean,
they
OSP literally in interviews said that. He literally said we got the he actually literally said that, Derek. Like we got the feedback. We're hearing you guys. We are like more or less apologizing. Like, yeah, we're sorry that didn't meet your expectations. Like this is going to lean heavy into what the history of this series is. Like he straight up said that. So like literally what you're saying, it's like, yeah, OSP was like, yeah, we're hearing you. Like,
and that's the thing. Like when I played 15, and Dan will remember this because he was on the podcast, and I praised the hell out of that game.
Yeah.
Because it was my favorite Final Fantasy game, and he would always rebuttal with, but the story, and I'm like, I don't give a freak about the story. The game's so freaking good, right? That was my opinion then, and I still will stand by that. I think Final Fantasy 15 is awesome.
Mhm.
But when I play 16, and I get amazing action, world, characters, gameplay, and then you throw in this. We were talking about it before we started recording, but then you throw in this story that is actually easy to tell, but there's a ton of depth to it. There's a ton of lore to it. There's a ton of backstory to it that actually makes it even better. And you're talking about one of the, for me, again, I'm only speaking to me personally, one of the best games I've ever played. Like, I've literally become obsessed with it, where I'm like, do you have Final Fantasy 16 statues that I can buy? Is there a shirt I can
wish.
buy?
Is there an
Like-
answer to that? Are there any?
Dude,
know.
Square is unbelievable. They are so fucking frustrating about statues, dude. Like it's either a statue. Have you guys ever seen the So do you know who Terra is? I think Kyle probably knows who Terra from Final Fantasy VI. I'm guessing Jeff doesn't know. Derek, you probably don't know.
Hey, I
No,
played
no.
Final Bar Line. Shut up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, then there you go.
The Terra's a character in
All right,
that.
so Terra from
Jeff's
Final
in,
Fantasy
Jeff's on our
VI.
side.
There's a statue of Terra sitting on one of those Magitech armor looking things, and it's basically like, I don't even know. It's probably like a foot tall or something, and it's like $16,000. not even being sarcastic. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
and there isn't a smaller version of it where it's, because that would be amazing. I would even spend like $500-$600 on thing. I don't even care. It's like Square is so annoying. They don't make statues really, or if they do, it's like the ones that Derek showed me, which like those are okay.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
like,
it looked like it was decent quality.
But like the Mortal Kombat ones that you got, because you just got
Iron
them, Derek,
Studios,
those are
yeah.
nice, right? Like those are
Yeah.
really detailed, and those are actually reasonably priced. So like,
They
I
are.
wish Square would kind of lean, but they don't, and it's.
But
just,
even this, like,
know.
yeah, I am showing it off. But even this, oh, you can't see it. My camera's so dumb; it doesn't.
It's
Shut
the
up.
Skype
well, it's
background,
all
it's
one
not-
color. Yeah, it's all
it's not
one
your
color.
camera.
Well, anyways, I got the Final Fantasy 16 like PlayStation 5 plates, but
yeah.
and I got the controller, but you can only buy them from Japan.
Sure.
They didn't release it in the United States. So luckily, here I want to give a shout out to my people on the east side of the world. They are very reasonable and respectful. First of all, I've always loved them because they are my dogs for Monster Hunter
Careful,
games.
careful.
You're my
What?
dogs, bro.
No, we've talked
They're
about that.
they're my
before.
dogs.
Whenever
Yeah.
whenever you see a Japanese name come into a server when you're
They
playing
got your
Monster
back.
Hunter, you know you're
You're
winning.
done. You're done.
You know
You
you're
know
winning.
you're winning.
Yeah.
But also,
Like just follow their lead. They know what to do.
but I want to give them a shout. I want to give a shout out because I bought a few things from them. Like for instance, you guys can see this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that one I can
Okay.
see.
You guys probably don't care about it, but it's a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Switch Pro controller. You
Mhm.
cannot find this anywhere. I bought it from Japan, and I bought it for less than what it goes for. I got it for $50. In fact, when I bought it, I was like, I bet you this is a fake. And the way you know it's a fake is Amiibos won't work on it.
Mm.
Everything works. It's legit.
That's
The
rad.
box, it's an official box, everything. So I got a decent deal because if this was in the USA only and they were sold out, I'd probably have to pay a gazillion dollars to get the controller and the stuff. But yeah, they're a little. I don't understand, like when they have something good, they kind of. I get like protecting it, but I still think they should like allow, for instance, an Iron Studios to create
Oh yeah.
statues and
Absolutely.
make the money because I'll buy it. But
You can find people on like eBay and stuff that do like 3D printed, are actually pretty solid, but
Etsy
they
would
can
probably
be
a good place
expensive.
to look to.
Yeah, or Etsy, exactly. But they do run pretty expensive. So
well, we got
Oh.
sidetracked. My main purpose was that I really think Final Fantasy 16 and what Final Fantasy the franchise does in general is they don't play things safe. You could say, well, this is safe. This is just a DMC ripoff. It really isn't. Yes, there is a ton of like familiarity in the combat, but the way they implement it, the way you unlock abilities, the depth of the
I've
abilities,
never done abilities in a Devil May Cry, not on like the level.
and we're
going
gonna
to
talk about it
Yeah.
later. But the way you can create your own build in this game, like there's and to make your combos crazy, is just something that allows you to play this game over and over to the point where when I finished the campaign, I was so excited to finish the campaign. First of all, because I wanted to see the story, which we're gonna start diving into this next. But I really wanted to see the story. But I also was just super excited to play New Game Plus because I knew they designed this game for a multiple playthroughs, which is so awesome that you've got a game. We as gamers, we hear it all the time, like, quit selling me a broken game. And these guys are going, we're not only not selling you a broken game, we're actually selling you a game that's ready for you to play it twice, back to back, so you can actually go deeper with the experience. We're going to change the experience in your second playthrough from your first. Nothing dramatic or like the story changes or anything like that, but like enemy placement, like the first like main level you're fighting and stuff like that, there's enemies that I didn't see until late game of my first playthrough are dropping in that first level. I'm like, what up, bro? Like, okay,
Nice.
this is gonna be insane because I'm not even that far into it. So this game, to me, they didn't play it safe, but they hit on what I would say the customers were wanting. And I think that's what we can lead into now. Let's talk about.
well, hold on. I don't think Jeff.
Yeah.
Did you mention
Yeah,
your
I haven't
experience?
said shit about fuck. So
Yeah.
I want to backtrack
Well,
to.
I was trying to silence you.
No.
I know. It's
Hold on, Jeff. This is
hashtag
your
cancel
second
Jeff.
mainline Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So
Because I've
you're
only
like the-
I've only played. No, this is my third, but I just didn't beat 15.
Okay.
But are you
but
counting
played,
7 remake?
You played,
or?
yeah, you count 7 remake.
I mean, well, not mainline.
Yeah.
To me, because it's like it gets in the weeds because it's like it's
Yeah.
not complete, but you know what I mean. So yeah.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that's the only other game I've beaten that has
Right,
Final Fantasy written on it. And then you don't count Final Bar Line, it's not the same. But you know, I've played every single song on that like at least twice. So I love that game, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, the series kind of has good music. It kind of has good music.
Kinda, it's okay.
Yeah, it's
much like this game. It's okay. So I switched in. I think 2 hours in, I switched to performance mode on this game.
Okay.
Oh, actually, no, it was at the very beginning when you're like walking with your buddies and you're trying to go somewhere. I switched performance mode because I noticed the camera movement was a little smoother. That was at least to my eyes. And I tend to. I think I brought this up before. That I tend to put like my office chair like a little close to the TV when I play most games because I just like to be that immersed in every experience. But with this game, the action was so busy, whether it was quality or performance, that I was like, I'm getting nauseous. So this was the first gaming experience that I gamed on my couch, which is a little further back. And it was actually kind of refreshing to be so relaxed while playing a high octane action RPG
for long sessions.
Yeah, really long sessions, and like the only thing that ended up hurting was the palm of my right hand because I'm mashing buttons for so long.
My hand.
My hand, dude. I gotta stop playing games for.
I got injured too.
Games for a bit. I was so intense because of that.
I did. I had PlayStation hands. Like my fingertips were sore from playing so much.
Yeah,
look at
the way that
these Devil May Cry noobs, Kyle.
It's got those little sharper rounded corners or whatever.
I mean, to be fair, I put at least 50 or 60 hours into this. I didn't play DMC5 for 50 to 60 hours.
Right. Well, because it's not as long. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 10. It's like 20 missions, 10 hours. Don't ask me how I know that. I'm totally not playing it right now.
So good.
It's so freaking good, guys.
It's so good. The absurdity of that game is so ridiculous.
But with this game, I'm pretty confident calling this probably the smoothest AAA. It was huge AAA game that launched that I've played this year. Like I'm trying to think of others that.
I'm trying to think of even last year. Like, was there anything that played this
probably
smooth?
God of War was pretty smooth.
At launch,
I did have crashes on God of War, but I didn't have any I didn't have any issues. But all games crashed on my PS5, and I think that's a PS5 problem, to be honest.
Like think of all the other big, more ambitious titles. Like I know this is a more linear experience, but there are definitely open areas that you're kind of required to load into, and the rest of the map is required to load into as well, very smoothly. But when you think of like Hogwarts or Jedi Survivor. Jedi Survivor was plagued with technical issues for me, so like I still rated it
the back
half
of the year. Also,
yeah, you had a lot of crashes in the back half.
Yeah, so did I actually.
Yeah, so my front half was like so pristine, and then the back half.
I had the opposite. Yeah, I had the opposite.
May have been one of the most broken games I played in the back half. I'm not even kidding. Like it was so absolutely, but I still loved it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Y'all didn't hear me. Y'all didn't hear me bitch about it ever. Yeah. So that's how much I like that game.
I would say, Diablo 4 would have been had it not been for all the server crap. It's all the forever online stuff, always online stuff that has made that launch plummet a little bit.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with like the quality of the game.
Right. Because when you're in the game, it's awesome. It's so much fun. But yeah, this game. Literally zero. It's like if I were giving it if I believed in scoring something, I would give it like 100 out of 100. Like, I mean, Jesus, on a technical level, really impressed me. Like the art style, the hyper realism on top of it being like very animated and the high fantasy stuff. Yeah, but like I felt like these were real people. Like, I mean, to an extent, it was just so freaking awesome on top to bottom.
And I mean the summons, dude. We kind of didn't even really fully die. Like, and I don't know if we want to have mention that more specifically in a different section, but the summons is like one of my top 3 favorite things just in general of Final Fantasy. Summons.
Yeah.
Like so, summons in this game.
My thoughts on the technical experience with it is pretty much echoed in my overall thoughts on the game. I think it's a 10 out of 10. So I wish I had more to add than that, but I feel like I hadn't talked about the technical side of it that much.
No, that's good. I'm glad that all 4 of us didn't have too many issues with that.
Yeah, the only
for me to be playing on my crash-heavy system and not get a single crash on this game was like it was literally magical to me. Like I was like, this is so incredible. Like
Yeah.
Well, it was probably
cool.
the power of the crystal. Like, it was probably the crystal source.
Well,
so.
although
Once
actually
the crystal
draining his
energy
PlayStation, so.
gets all sucked up, your PlayStation's gonna die.
Yeah, and then it's because of the ether and the corruption of the.
The Aether. Yeah.
The only thing I would say, and they addressed it, was the motion. Like, and
Oh my
here's where I
gosh.
I saw it. So like when I'd move the camera around, I could see on Clive, like the top, like all around his head, you could see like the motion blur. It was like really like noticeable. That is my literally my only complaint, and that is from me going, "Yep, it's still there." Okay, it wasn't something like where it was constantly being
No,
thrown
there
in
were
my
sometimes I sat down and like the game would actually make me kind of feel anxious when I played it, and I didn't realize that that's what it was until everyone started talking about the motion blur, and I'm like, is that what I'm seeing? Because it wasn't happening all the time, like you're saying, but every once in a while I'd sit down, there'd be like a stretch of game where I'm just like, I just feel weird about playing. I don't know. It felt really weird.
I wonder if performance mode, because you guys mentioned playing in quality, I wonder if that turns it off or something. Because I didn't see that. I think
it was, if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, it was only really an issue on quality mode. It was less less seen on.
Well, I thought you were going to go this route. The camera constantly readjusting. That was my main thing.
Yeah, if I was trying to look,
which was such a minor gripe.
I'm like, why are you fighting me?
I'm constantly drifting my right joystick to align the camera with how I'm running because it's like constantly recentering. And I'm like, stop it.
They addressed that too.
Such a minor thing, but I heard they addressed it. So.
Like they added the adjustment now, right? So there was a second update because it was a really small update when the game launched. They were trying to have there be none, but then there was, and it was like tiny. It was like a tiny ass update.
Oh yeah.
And then there was the second update where you can adjust the motion blur. And I put it all the way down, and it actually like almost kind of made like as I was turning the camera, like kind of like like it was almost kind of like skippy, which was really weird.
I compensate for it or something.
That's because like I saw a video on Twitter where somebody was like, "All right, I have the motion blur down," and they turned the camera, and I was like, "Oh, that looks really smooth. That's nice." So then when I turned it down, it did not do that. Like, so I don't know again if it's a quality thing.
So we hate this game
mode. Like,
absolutely.
That's actually where we were shifting. We were like gonna hype it just to bash it for the next hour.
I think the summons are kind of stupid, actually. How about that?
So 4 out of 4 of us think it's a good-looking game. We like the aesthetics. We like the world they built. All right, so let's get to our overall thoughts of the main game. Obviously, we know all 4 of us like, or I keep saying 4 of us, all 5 of us like it. But like, what personally was your biggest strengths, and then what, if you have any, what were your biggest weaknesses?
I mean, the strength is like an actual competent, coherent story. Finally. Like, and again, I'm saying that to be like kind of sarcastic because obviously I've, like how you mentioned earlier with 15, I've expressed my feelings about 15 and even 13, which Jesse White and I are always going at each other about 13, which is just like at this point, it's just like a fun, like jokey thing. Yeah, but like, I also, it's a meme at this point.
Listen,
we have him on record saying that the story isn't very good in that game.
Final Fantasy 16 is literally copy and paste Final Fantasy 13. Don't at me.
Sure.
Don't at me.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Don't at me.
Especially the mirroring of all the characters sucking in this game, right, guys?
Right. Yeah.
No, actually,
like
when I was
Final
playing
Fantasy
16. As I was playing 16, as I got towards the end, and then in the area started like really opening up, and there was like more depth with like side quests and stuff. I was like, dude, are they doing the same thing they did with 13, where they just made this really linear game, and then towards the back half, they're like, by the way, here's this big area, and we want you to stop pushing the buttons.
Hey, all right.
Okay.
Anyways, all I was saying is that I noticed that 16 was designed, like as far as like the way the game starts and the way it finishes, very similar to 13. 13 is very linear, then it opens up towards the end, and that's when you get a ton of side quests and things, the ability to level up a little bit more, whereas in the previous part of the game, like the first like 3/4 of it, it's very like follow this path and there's not much else you can do. 16 has kind of that same design.
My favorite Final
I was just
Fantasies are
surprised
linear.
by that.
I don't care. Yeah. Final Fantasy X is my favorite, and well, I don't know. I have to redo my list after all this, but
Sure.
that game is you just walk straight the entire game. Like there is never
there's like
any
little
question of where you're
areas,
supposed to go in that game.
Except for the Calm Land or Calm.
But like even then, it's still forward that you go. You know,
Yeah,
you could go left and right, but like there's just kind of dead ends to other places.
You're basically going off to the corner, like straight.
So at no point, you know, and it still felt like, you know, maybe you guys agree or don't, but like it still felt like you were going on a really grand adventure in this game, despite like a lot of these places just being hallways. Like the sense of space was just so unique, and there felt like there was a density to it, even though you were just kind of on this pathway or whatever.
Well, I feel like it helped deliver the story.
When I was doing those notorious marks, I was like, there were some areas that I was like, oh, there's a whole other area of the map I didn't even go down yet. Like, there was always that sense of discovery.
Because they weren't letting
even in smaller open areas, it was still like.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I think the linearity, obviously intentional,
right?
But I think it actually serves for a greater purpose with the overall game, because they're like, look, our goal here is to make a really good story. Obviously, again, that was a huge goal. And they did it, and I think the linearity actually helped with it. And then towards the end, the back half, like I said, it does open up. And there's not just like one open area. There's like 2 or 3 bigger areas that I was like, man, these areas just keep getting bigger. And by the time I got to it, I was so OP, and I was so invested in the story that even like I think the last big area, I hardly explored it. In fact, I only used it. I found a video on YouTube like, hey, run over to these guys, fight these guys real quick, reset. Run over to these guys, fight these guys real quick, reset. And I just did that to farm to get up to like a level 49. And then once I got to 49, I was like, all right, we're going to go do the final boss and beat the game. But I think it played to the strength of the story, being more linear. And I agree with Kyle. I really do. Like, at no time was I like, man, this should have been open world. Because I actually now think that Final Fantasy 15 was probably hurt more by being an open world game. I liked it, like I said, but I think it hurt the story, and it was so.
I think the lack of story hurt the story in that game.
Yes, but it was like discombobulated that you were doing. Yeah. You could do something for like 20 hours and then go, okay, I think I'll do the next story mission. This game, technically, you could do other stuff before you do the next next main mission, but never did I go more than 5 to 10 hours, and that was just when I was doing the side quests at the end of the game. That I knew there was only one mission left. Other than that, I was doing 8 missions every.
I actually like the flow with the side quests. Yeah, like you would do like kind of a big stretch of maybe like 2 or 3 missions that felt really focused, and some big event would happen. And then afterwards, you would do a bunch of side quests that were kind of nice. It was kind of a nice like breakup of like big epic moments, a palate cleanse, if you will. I started getting familiar with all the characters where I'm like, cool, I'm going to go see the Dame. I like her. You know, like there became a familiarity with like all the big players for these side missions and quest givers and stuff like that. I'm going to see Martha, you know, like, cool. All right, Martha. Why
did you say that name?
Why did you say that name? Remember that part when Clive said to Joshua, why? Anyways. No, but I actually like that. I know a lot of people were complaining about the side quests in this game, you know, and like they're not inventive, you know, by any means. But like again, like the draw for me was that creation of familiarity with all these characters and areas and stuff like that, knowing who I was going to run across and talk to when I was going to a certain area to get a mission, and kind of the theme of what that mission was going to be. Like Martha was always struggling, you know, with bandits or goblins or Akashic or whatever, you know, like, so every time you went there, you were kind of just giving a helping hand or defending the town and stuff like that. The Dame was always doing something political and all this subterfuge stuff to make sure she kind of still had a hand on control of the town, not for nefarious reasons, you know, while she was outsmarting the military there and everything like that. But like that was consistent. Like, so you always had this kind of consistent thing with all these side quests that.
But the story of the side quests were also consistent, and they were were building and building and progressing little by little, just like Derek was saying. Exactly. There's they're like it's almost like filler, right? Anime filler, but like it's good filler.
It's good filler.
Like,
that's a great way to put it. It's totally filler, but it's like good filler.
The people I noticed, and I'm not saying that all side quests were good. It wasn't. They were
right. Sometimes like they were total bullshit. Like just run across the post and talk to somebody. It's like, you did it. It's like,
But I
Like,
noticed
oh,
most
for
of the
1,000
people
XP, I
that
guess.
complained about the side quest had not beaten the game or gotten to the place where there is a payoff. And if they did get to that place, they either didn't do those side quests to see the payoff, or they were just so set in their opinion. Let's be honest. Once people form an opinion, it's really hard to convert them. If they say
Yeah.
something sucks, they're going to keep saying it sucks. So I think a lot of people, I would say on a design from the games, like from the game developer's perspective, I do think they messed up a little bit. Like in the early side quests, I get those are your intro, like here's how you do a side quest.
Yeah.
But I think they babied us a little bit. And
yeah, the
I
first
think they
half,
could've-
like the side quests are way different in the second half for sure. In
Yes.
terms of quality and longevity.
and I agree with you guys.
impact.
I agree. The arcs of all of them, I played them through. You guys know I skip everything. Yes, there were some characters I went, don't care, don't care, don't care. Let's move on.
Monster.
But
You're
for the
monster.
most part, I cared. Like I loved. I'm gonna forget his name, but I love the whole arc with the
Otto?
I think the mayor in the sand area, like the dunes or whatever.
Yeah, the dude with the wrapped
Oh,
up.
yeah,
is-
right. Yeah, he
Yeah.
ends up being a
Where he
bear
was-
and the whole town.
yeah,
hates
where
he
him,
was gonna
even though he's the
leave.
only thing keeping the town together.
Yep,
It's
yeah.
a great story.
And
yeah.
they literally try to stone him to death, and literally kids use themselves as shields
Yeah.
and start yelling at the adults, right? Little
Yeah.
kids yelling at adults to stop stoning this man that's keeping your town up, you sons of
Yeah.
bitches.
Right,
Like
right.
Yeah.
what like a insane moment that is, like which plays into the whole classism thing, and we can get into that, but yeah, continue, sorry.
Yeah,
It was
No,
just
no.
insane.
But that was my point. Is that like there were certain arcs and stories that I was like, I like these characters, and I said that
Yeah.
before. I'm pretty hard on like games when it comes to like annoying characters. In fact, you guys thought I was going to be annoyed with certain characters. I was like,
Yeah.
nope, fits into the game perfectly.
Yeah,
like
like
I don't
Mid
want
had to
everybody to be the
mentioned.
exact
I
same.
I thought you were gonna hate Mid. I was so sure. I was like, oh, she's too spunky. It's too much.
Oh,
She's
that's-
too spunky.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
That's Sid's daughter. You can't hate Sid's
Yeah.
daughter.
That's true.
I like that
Uh,
they called it Sid, like they just like
Yeah,
changed
but I
the
like how
color.
they're just those are
Because
nicknames.
she's
I
a
know it's
woman,
Sid
she's a
Dolphus
middle
and, like,
version of
Midius
Sid.
or whatever her
She's
name is.
half
They're
as
good,
good.
Yeah.
Sure.
I like how they're short for the real names. That's cool.
Oh, by the way, if you are down on side quests and you're listening to this and it's a spoiler cast and you're still haven't beat it, whatever. You live your life, I guess. But if you get to the side quest where you get to like scold children or listen to them get eaten by wolves, like and you still hate your side quests,
Yeah.
I mean, what's wrong with
Yeah.
you? Like, you should
Yeah.
love the side quest. That was when I turned around on it, and I was like, these side quests are pretty nice.
Yeah,
Not because I
yeah.
hate kids or nothing, but it was just very funny. And
Oh, but
very
they
dark.
deserved it. They
Like,
so
I
deserved
was
it.
like, this is so dark, and I love it. Like, it's just such a twist, like on the wholesome side quest thing that you normally do on these games.
Yeah.
I also
Bleak.
thought they did a
This game was
good
bleak,
job.
man. There were some bleak moments, you know.
Yeah, but that was what I was gonna say. Like, so I kind of went into it, and a lot of people felt this way. They were like, oh, this is DMC Game of Thrones mashup, right? So DMC gameplay, Game of Thrones world, and yes, if you take a step back, clearly, they were inspired by Game of Thrones. They even copied and pasted some of the stuff.
Oh,
But
you
one
mean
thing
Clive's entire backstory? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I guess that is pretty similar.
But like,
I don't want the throne.
Yeah, he says that too.
Yeah.
I laughed so hard when that happened. I don't want
God
to
damn
be
it.
king. I'm like, gee, this is so great. I love this. Is a total copy paste, but like in a good way. They changed enough. Anyways, I'm sorry, Derek. Go ahead.
no, it's okay. What I was gonna say is, but the one thing I appreciated is that I kept expecting, since I'm like, okay, this has got a Game of Thrones vibe, right? It's got the gore. It's definitely more mature. I don't know why you couldn't show me Benna want to see you naked. Why you didn't show me Oliver?
Because they got to keep it classy, Derek. They got to keep
I
it
don't want to see
classy.
it
I But they didn't go for shock value. And again, I'm not anti-shock value. I like when good people die. I like that. Like, it makes me
Lord,
happy.
Jesus.
But they didn't have a lot of like, oh my god, you took away that character I really like. They had those moments. I mean, we can
Yeah.
talk about the first major spoiler, and that's Sid. Like, Sid is introduced, and everybody loves
Sid
Sid.
is
If you
such
don't
a
like
great
Sid, you
character,
hate
yeah.
video games. Like,
So good.
you hate everything that's good. So Sid's this amazing character, and he's written well. He's voice acted perfectly. he's just an awesome
Dude's
character.
always smoking J's, dude. Every
Yeah.
time he can, he's like, I'm
He's
rolling
so
a J real
frickin'
quick.
chill.
Yeah.
But they end up taking his life, which because he's so likable, it did hurt. It did hurt, but I also understood it for like
Sacrifice meant something though too.
Yeah.
His death meant something. Like
There's
the
a purpose to
reflections that it casts across the rest of the.
Yeah.
And that's what a good death is. A good death is not about being shocked, like you're saying, Derek. It's about having lasting, known, seeable, and tangible effects for the rest of the story. So, like, when you just kill someone out and you're like, we're not going to talk about them anymore. Like, that's not how you kill people off. Like, like even Benedicta, like even the people that you do kill and Kupka and stuff like that, like they bring them up so often post death because of like what their deaths meant for the story and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And it just made it feel so good whenever these people, there was a reason for them to be taken off the table, you know?
Yeah, like Sid's death like inspired everybody to keep living, like kind of pursuing his goals and his dreams. Like they kept inspiring to be Sid. In fact, you know, they eventually just call Clive Sid. And at first I was confused. I'm like, why do they
Picking
keep
the
calling him?
moniker.
It's because he's carrying
he's
on
taking
the
the
name.
torch. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
taking the torch and carrying.
The realm already
mission.
knows Sid as like a redeemer and a a liberator and stuff.
An
So you might as well keep it alive. You got to keep that legend alive, you know.
Which also, by the way, Sid, another recurring thing in the Final Fantasy series. There's been pretty much a Sid in most of the Final Fantasies in some way, shape, or form.
Yep. So, not always a main character, but always there.
Yeah. Right. Always there. Always a presence. And incredibly important in this story, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, I think the biggest strengths for me, I have two things that I love. I love the story, in and out, every part of it. As I told these guys before we did this podcast, I sat down and listened to a guy literally go step by step through all the story, like explaining each scene, the context, the characters, and I was like, dude, I got the story. I got it. Like I understood what was going on. I did not understand it to the level that he explained it. There were things I missed, some characters that some of the stuff he referenced, I was like, oh, I completely didn't know that was that person's background. There is a lot of depth. So to me, this is the best story I've played in a game in a long time. In fact, I actually can't think of I'm just talking story only, of a game that I appreciate the story and the depth of it more than this game. So that's why I would say the biggest strength for me is definitely the story. But what got me hooked and had me continue to play it on and on is they nailed the gameplay. And that's what I want you guys to talk about. What's your thoughts on, and you can go as deep into it as you want. You can start talking about, icons, your builds, your favorite abilities, whatever. But like, what are your thoughts on the gameplay? Because for me, that's what in the beginning underwhelmed me. When I played the demo, I was like, please tell me there's more to this game, because I'm not going to like this game if this is what this is going to feel like. By the time at the end, I was like, I have to keep playing. I've got to keep playing. I've got to keep playing. Like, I can't stop. So what are your thoughts on the gameplay? What's your favorite parts of it? If there are any weaknesses, and what was your build by the end of the game?
Are we jumping to gameplay now? Because I mean, I feel like there's still a bunch of story related. So unless we're going to circle back.
No, you could talk about anything. I'm saying we weren't really in story. We were talking about strengths and weaknesses. We just kind of
because one of the main strengths for me is like there was a demo for this game. They were like, all right, we're going to release a demo. It's literally the first like hour and a half, 2-ish hours, if I guess you're really just kind of walking around. And it like hooked a bunch of people because basically you get to a point where there's like all hell breaks loose. Some guys break into like the fort that you're in. And then suddenly two icons are going at it. You got Ifrit, which some dude's shocked that there's a second fire icon. And then, you got freaking, Phoenix going at each other, and there's this epic battle that ensues, and then fucking Ifrit just takes his fiery fist, and just right through Phoenix, and Clive is screaming. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like he's literally F-bombing in a Final Fantasy game, which is insane. And it's like it's like, all right, so at this point you don't really know for sure 100%. Like you're kind of thinking, all right, it's probably Clive, but you're not 100% sure. But like, basically, if it is Clive, it's like Clive just murdered his brother. Like literally just murdered his brother, not even really realizing. And he's saying, "I'm going to kill you," speaking to Ifrit, which is like, well, you're speaking to yourself. And then and then you jump ahead into the game and you realize, oh, right, so yeah, Joshua is alive because, well, the Phoenix, right? Rebirth, like that makes sense that he comes back. And honestly, Joshua might actually, I would have to like kind of sit there and think with my feelings for Joshua might be actually my favorite character in the whole game, because like this kid who has this power. And then like he comes back to life at some point, and then this like shadowy like organization that actually helps the royalty of Rosaria to like figure things out. I forget what they're called specifically. They have a name. That little group that helps Joshua.
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
Yeah. I don't remember.
Don't call them the Order of the Phoenix. That's taken.
Okay. But they're literally
Harry Potter reference, dude.
That's what you call
like a franchise, dude.
Yeah, he's literally then comes back and like he could have ran to like be like, bro, I'm alive, bro. But no, he's like on a mission and he's trying to help Clive. He knows Clive's doing stuff too. And then like he saves Clive at one point and he literally absorbs. We haven't even gotten to Ultima yet. We haven't even mentioned Ultima yet, which also another recurring thing in the entire franchise. Yeah. Ultima.
I was so excited to see him as the main bad guy. I'm like, you're usually like a secret boss. Like this is now you're front and center. This is so cool, you know.
Which is an homage to Tactics, which I need to actually fully play Tactics, because apparently he's actually like might be the main boss, or he's just like he's incredibly important to the story of Tactics.
Okay.
So it's like a huge homage to like Tactics specifically, which is like there's a lot of themes connected between Tactics and this game, I would say. It's just Joshua's just like his brother that gets murdered by Ifrit, that's actually Clive, and he's on a mission and they gotta save, Ash and whatever the hell the other island's called.
Not Ash.
Not Ash. And it's just like
Storm. I think it's
he's
Storm.
just so Storm.
Yeah,
and he's just so selfless, and he's on this journey, and then finally they do come together. But like he's sick because he's absorbed the energy of Ultima into him, but he's like, I'm gonna help you. Like, stop carrying all this weight on your shoulder. Like.
The brotherhood story was really good. Yeah,
it's just unbelievable. Yeah, because and you feel that pain of those moments, right? Like when Clive finally like, oh shit, like my brother is alive. Or
I still killed like maybe 40 people there, but at least my brother.
Right. Yeah. Yes, but I mean that's an important moment. Obviously,
it is. No, it's super
alive, right?
Yeah, and it played really well. Yeah.
And then the very end, of course, because we can mention, like, we can talk about the ending as a whole, but like the performance of Clive, like the voice actor, I forget his name, of Clive in that final moment there is like that might be like the best like acted video game. I don't know, man. It's got to be like top 3 or 5 or something when he's holding Joshua. Guys.
Yeah.
Like
I felt it like as a non-feeling person. I felt it. Like I was like
non-feeler,
yeah, I was like, okay, because again, I already said this. Like, this story meant a lot to me. Well, that means that the characters meant a lot to me. So, like, you guys are saying Joshua is your favorite. I liked him. Don't get me wrong; he's a great character.
Yeah, I liked him, but not that much.
But I really liked.
Yeah,
I liked. Aside from Sid, which he's not there for the whole game, but I was a big fan of like Clive and Jill. Like, I was actually sad when Jill wasn't with me. Yeah. I liked having her there. I thought they played off each other, not like humorous, but like played off each other's strengths and weaknesses really well. Yep. They were just like, honestly, they were a cute couple that weren't a couple for most of the game. It's like, come on, Clive, come on, dude.
Seal the deal, bro.
Pretty hard. You're shipping them hard for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But then when it happens, it's kind of abrupt. You're like, oh, they're on a beach. Okay, yeah, no, we're doing that.
Because body heat and being.
You gotta dry your clothes, dude. You're not gonna get hypothermia.
I mean,
even though he's an icon of fire, he can just generate fire. But that's cool. That's fine. That's all right.
Think about it too much, man.
she was one that was probably like, maybe we should get naked.
She was cold because
I can't use my fire.
She's Shiva, so she's like
probably can't even feel the cold. Yeah.
Anyway, I love Sid. Is probably my favorite, and then Torgal's the goodest boy, obviously.
Oh yeah,
The bestest boy. Yeah.
And
Dude.
Gav is a favorite for sure.
Dude,
Gav's
Gav,
amazing.
Gav,
Yeah.
Did I
Gav.
miss something though about Torgal? And here's what I'm asking:
Treehouse?
Why was he have the? Did he have the ability when Jill was about ready to be sacrificed to like go nutso, awesome, crazy, but then never does it any other time in the game? I was
He
waiting
does.
for him
he does.
to.
He does.
Yeah.
He does it automatically.
It's just
They
there's
don't
so
make
much
a big scene of
happening.
it, but if you look
Oh.
at him, he is that.
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, in the
I
background when he's
missed
fighting
it.
other people on your behalf,
Yeah.
you'll see
Okay.
him take.
And he does it because like he's like spiritually linked to like the icon
Shiva.
that
Yeah, he's
the
an
icon
icon.
that he is spiritually linked to like Shiva. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Okay,
it's the
and
protector.
it's supposed to be.
I
they
just
didn't,
thought
they
he
didn't go
did
into
that
it, but
and then
it's,
never did it again. I'm like,
No, yeah,
Boy.
he does
Boy, are
it.
you
He does
gonna
it every
do it?
time. Like
And they
after that.
mentioned they didn't really like go into it. They just kind of hint that all roads lead to Clive, I guess. But they were kind of saying like, oh yeah, he's historically like his breed is linked to Shiva, whoever the
It's like an
bearer
ice
is of Shiva.
Yeah,
And Tomes was
he's
like,
a not
I'm baffled
dire wolf from the
though.
north.
I'm baffled. Yeah, it's a not dire wolf, but he's like, I'm baffled though because this thing is responding to you the way that it normally would to Shiva, historically speaking. And they
Yeah.
just kind of leave it at that, just because Clive was some type of vessel or something. So like,
Yeah,
apparently,
Clive
all the
was always
things
meant
that
to have all of them. So really,
Yeah.
he is Shiva.
Which
yeah.
I mean, also they use the
guess,
term
yeah.
Fenrir, which
Yeah.
again,
That was
another
cool.
thing of Final Fantasy. Like
well,
it's
and
like
just general
so badass.
mythology. Yeah,
right in general mythology. Yeah. It's just
I love that type of stuff.
Fenrir is sometimes
Odin.
a summon, and
Yeah.
just sometimes like a prominent thing in Final Fantasy. But yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
But speaking of summons, they brought up the Leviathan, and we never saw
They
it.
did.
Leviathan got lost a long time ago. and we
When
never...
did they say? When did they say? Oh, they just said that it got lost a long
It was
time ago.
towards the
Yeah,
end.
like yeah. It's towards the end. Yeah.
Towards the end of the
it's
game.
like someone goes like when Leviathan was lost. I think when Ultima was maybe giving a
DLC.
diatribe.
Prequel
Yeah, that's what I
DLC.
said. I go. That's
Did
what the
you
DLC is
see
going to be about. Yeah.
in the field, there's that first I think larger area that you hit where there's what Senbrek, was it Oriflamme Castle,
City.
and there's
yeah.
yeah. Did you guys notice out
Republic.
to like the ocean on the left? There's like an icy sort of thing coming out of. Did you guys notice that or?
I thought that was
I mean, I'd
because
have
of
to see
Shiva.
it.
Didn't they have a battle there, and Shiva kind of wrecked shop against the Titan, or are you
This was
suggesting?
somewhere else.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know, because I remember people first posting it because I remember seeing it and I saw people like they were like Leviathan ? Because there's just some sort of icy structure like that's
Out
just
there. I'd
there
have
the
to see a
whole
picture
time.
of
So
it. Maybe I
Yeah.
just don't. I can't.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right now.
But yeah, maybe DLC. But yeah, literally Leviathan gets mentioned, which is awesome.
So
Yeah.
that's literally
Who's who
the
of all
only
the
thing
summons?
that I would say it's not a weakness that makes me sad about the game. Is I said on the podcast,
It ends.
I was like, hey,
Yeah.
Unless Clive dies,
Sure.
I really
Sure.
want a part 2 and a part 3.
Yeah, you
I
did
want a
say that, and I
trilogy
didn't
of
know how
this
to,
game.
like,
Yeah.
And then the next
Ugh.
day, I beat the game, and I went, okay, well, my comments didn't hold up very long. So I'm not gonna get. I'm not getting
I
part
love
2
a
of
good
part.
main character death. I love it. I love a
Me
good main
too.
character. It's like the
I love
ending
it.
is probably my favorite part
Yeah.
of this entire game was
Well,
how hard they stick
You
the
know, I
landing.
legit had to leave the Final Fantasy 16 subreddit because everybody was like, "It's ambiguous. I don't know what to make of it."
Well,
And I'm
hold on,
like, I
so
felt
hold
like
on.
it was pretty fucking.
I want to
obvious
ask.
what
No,
happened.
hold
It
on. I
was
want to ask.
pretty
I want to
obvious.
ask you guys. There's the book. There's those. So it's obviously way ahead in the future to the point where literally the mom's like, "You're talking about fairy tales." So
Yeah.
it's like a huge jump in time, clearly.
Yeah.
And there's the book that says Final
Final
Fantasy.
Fantasy.
By Joshua.
Joshua Rossfield.
Yeah.
Now, do we think that it is Joshua that
Yes.
was in fact?
Yes. Yeah. He
Nothing in
healed
the
him.
game is indicated that
You
it
watch
would be
he healed
anybody
him.
other than
and
Joshua.
like and
Oh,
thematic
right.
that completes Clive's journey of being Joshua's shield. His very
Sure.
last act as God was
Sure.
saving his brother and then
But I was-
and then dying.
So I was reading something and I don't remember
Probably
the
Reddit.
context of it. No, it was something else.
Someone
There's a
being
ton of
wrong.
people on Reddit that were like, maybe
context of,
Clive
like,
took
no,
Joshua's
there's no
name, and I'm
maybes.
like, why? Why?
No,
though?
so that book, it's called Final Fantasy. The book has all of these stories. People were saying that like the stories in that book, how does anyone but Clive know those stories to be able to put it in that book? But I don't remember
Yeah,
how
I mean,
I feel like
Maybe,
it's kind
I
of
don't know.
obvious because Clive interacted with literally everybody at the hideaway that Joshua could easily
I
just
think
go back there and
everyone
be
could
like,
tell
hey,
that story. Yeah,
So are
he
you
could just
guys
go
saying
and
I'm
interview
just
everybody.
throwing it out
Joshua
there.
is alive? You think Joshua is alive?
Yeah, he revived him
Yeah,
as his final act.
1,000%. He revived him at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I heard somebody say that they believe that Joshua wrote the book before he died, and that it
There
was
was that
found
too. There was
later.
that theory as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Joshua did have all those scholars and weirdo priests as well
True.
that could have been doing that deep dive on the history
Sure.
of their world. But I did think, Clive, that was Clive's final act was reviving him, and then because he used too much magic over a brief period of time, he got petrified.
His
Well, the
vessel
ultimate
just
power
not
was
enough
too
to-
strong.
Yeah, it was just too much power for any vessel.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
but I do like that. I like it by the end of it. Like, you're a dude who's ascended because you've helped so many people. Like, people believe in you like they would, like, put all their hope in you like they would a god. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And that gave Clive enough power to fight a little, like the creator god.
Logos.
And it was just so epic. Ugh.
Oh my god, dude!
I
loved the swapping of icons in the middle of the fight to be like Titan, and then whatever ultimate.
He was
name
actually
for that
saying
god
it.
was. Yeah, it's like they're like summoning like the powers in the moment, and it's I know it's all cinematic at that part, but it's so good.
But like,
I wanted to just watch it. I didn't want to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't make me mash buttons. This is so cool.
Yeah. Sometimes
trying to do it, and then Clive's like, "Nah, bro. Like my shit's more powerful than yours." Like,
I like watching Ultima get shaken too. Like he would just be like, "How are you this powerful?" I really like that. Like to watch him
because he was as Clive was telling him, like, you were so arrogant. To completely like just ignore the fact that you made your creations conscious, granted them consciousness, and you expect them to just like be like subservient to your cause. At a moment
while you ignore them
after centuries of being ignored. Like, I mean,
the real power was the people who believe in you. You know, like you gave that away. You sold that ship down the.
That was what I wanted to talk about is what y'all's thoughts were on Ultima, because I still feel like. He's one of the best villains I've ever. I'm not saying like we haven't ever seen a villain like him, but the way he speaks and his backstory,
there's a presence
and
to him.
The way he talks to Clive and like
look up the actor, you'll recognize him. You'll be like, oh, that's who that is. Yeah, that voice fits that. You know, like it's somebody who's been in like not Game of Thrones, but like a lot of British shows. And you'll recognize his face if you look him up. You'll be like,
I'll look him up.
Actually,
I like.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I don't know if you remember. So when you first see the mural, right? Because I wanted to bring it up so badly, but we weren't going to talk spoilers. I remember the first time you go down to that fallen room.
Yeah.
And I was trying to tell you guys like there's a mural, and I was like, it kind of reminds me of something. I don't know. Maybe Kyle would kind of know better. Because Kyle knows the ending of Final Fantasy VII, the fight with Sephiroth, the way Sephiroth looks.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, I didn't even put that together. But yeah, you're right.
Like, the second I saw that mural, I was like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, I didn't connect that. But no, you're right. There are some design similarities there. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like sort of like these wing things coming down. And then Ultima has white hair also. And I swear at one point he even has one wing. Like, I swear there's a moment at the end of the game. Oh, okay.
But he's Viserys in House of the Dragon.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't look familiar.
Yeah, for one reason.
Look him up with blonde hair. You'll see it. You'll be
okay. Yeah. Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Sorry. So, but yeah, I just remember like the second I saw it, I wanted to share that with like you guys.
Wait, is he the one who masturbates outside the window or whatever?
Wait,
is that him? Is he the oldest of the queens?
I think he is the older one. Yeah, the shitty one.
Yeah, he's the one. He's like the depraved guy, and he's the.
He was I'm sorry, not House of the Dragon. He was the shitty brother to Khaleesi in. In Game of Thrones,
other Viserys.
So I'm Viserys. Right. Yeah, I was mixing up Viserys. Yeah.
It all makes sense now. It all makes sense. Same energy.
He lived for one season though, or whatever. So spoilers, I guess, but.
He got his golden crown. Whatever.
Yeah, Ultima has
Game of Thrones spoiler cast.
Ultima has a major presence, and I really like him. And I didn't really know the game sets itself up like this is a mortal problem. You know what I mean? Like it's a bunch of people who've gotten power, and it just corrupted everybody, and they're just fighting endless wars or whatever. And that second act or end of second act or whatever, however you'd say it, the end of the first part of the game. where it's like, no, there are bigger machinations afoot, you know, where
where Ultima finally
God
takes shape
presents
and,
himself pretty much.
all that stuff. Yeah.
It's just super interesting. I didn't know we were going that route, I guess is what I was saying.
I liked how they
I thought by the end of it
wrote
we were fighting the
that
king, and the king has ascended to some kind of power, you know,
Well,
something weird
also
like
the
that.
fact that they basically throw in a whole like racism sort of thing in there as an underlying thing too, like
With the bears, yeah.
With the
with
bears,
classism,
yeah,
and
But I
a lot of
like
classism,
I like that they showed, and again, it's very subtle until you start to really get to see who he is and get to be really interested in who he is. Then you realize how big of a part he played in this entire story. But Ultima essentially works like the devil. And so he just he can't control anything, but he can corrupt your mind and your perspective, and you can start manipulating other people around you. And that's exactly what he did. Like the way he manipulated so many people. He even manipulated Clive because Clive kept thinking he was seeing Joshua, the hooded. It was actually in some of the scenes, it was Ultima. So it's like he was manipulating everybody because, and he reveals it at the very end, hey, I needed you to do what you did. I needed you to destroy all. I
love that reveal, by the way. Like, which you don't find out until the final freaking fight.
That's what I'm saying. There's so much
late in the
depth
game
to this story. It wasn't like this tacked on, like, by the way, I did all this for this. Like, the way he was like, you did exactly what I needed you to do. You became as strong as I needed you to become.
Man.
It's all in my plan. Do you see how this is all working out for me? And that's the way he talks to Clive. Like he's not like a condescending dick, like intentionally.
It's so
he's
like
just
monotone, like
organically a dick, and that's just like his being. Is he's
actually
just like
I was kind of
very smart.
I think I mentioned or I hinted at it in the other previous podcast where I was like, when he first introduced himself, I was like, oh great, another know-it-all god type villain. Yawn, and then like. You just had kind of like the side quests and being gratified by those. You just had to wait and play the long game.
Yeah.
And then by the third act, I was like, this villain's kind of fucking cool. And like when you find out that he's of an ancient species, whatever they were called before, the remnants
they're called the Fallen, right? They keep
throwing the remnants of the Fallen. Basically, he's like a descendant or something of the Fallen. And like he's like they're responsible basically for creating all of mankind and all this shit, like all this added lore that just added so much weight to everything you were doing. Holy shit, dude! I was like, okay, never mind. I get it now.
Yeah. So you kind of understood why he, again, I think it was just his being, like, because he wasn't being like a dick intentionally. He was just like, look, I know I'm smarter than you. I have been playing you and everybody around you this entire time.
He literally planted the mother crystals, and he let him destroy all of them on purpose. That was
Well, he had a very great, let's just wrap it up kind of. I know how this ends. Let's just get there. Can you just get there already? Like that's the kind of vibe I got from him the whole game, but like in a very monstrous way.
Once you get to the end, you are revealed that the one thing you ignored is the one thing that came back to destroy you, and you never saw it. Like, he never saw it. The entire time he's fighting Clive, he's not understanding how he's losing. Like, he's just like, I don't get this. How are you beating me? Like, even when he becomes his final form, which is like Ultimaeus or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, it's some all long of them name.
Super Saiyan Ultima.
Pretty much. Super Shredder. Pretty much. Yeah.
He's like, this. I don't understand how you, a mere human, could be as strong as me. Like, he's baffled by it.
He was just too blinded by the fact that he's a god, and he has the, like you said, the plan. So these mother crystals get planted across the islands, and it's sucking up the aether out of the planet.
It's a good, honestly, pretty good plan. Like he just obviously he was blinded by his own arrogance at the end, but pretty solid plan, because that you know bleeding. When you destroy the mother crystals, it causes the ether to bleed and corrupts everybody and stuff like that. That's a pretty good plan to make them subservient to your cause. Like it's
also not a bad plan. Light also, so they're like, you know, humans are dealing with that, and then war and classism.
I mean, the entire almost the entire continent, like all but like a quarter of Ash was all blighted, like all crap. So like.
Dude. Actually, so creepy when you finally get to that second area, and it's just like basically no one. It's so eerie.
It is.
It's
and the music is eerie too.
That was actually one of the things that I wanted to discuss. Was like, what's your favorite areas of the game? And for me, it was that area, and then
Yeah.
I would say my second favorite area, which this is not normal for me. I don't normally like desert areas, but I really like. Was it Damascus?
Dalmatia?
Dalmatia.
Was that the place with all
Um,
the waterfalls?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's my
waterfalls?
favorite.
That's where I
yeah,
took
yeah,
a
like it's like a
screenshot.
crater in the ground, and like it's all
That's right.
waterfalls.
That's right.
I remember
did
when
That
I
was
went
such
seeing
a
that and
cool
walking up
place.
to that, like that was like one of the most jaw-dropping parts
I
of
was
like
like-
the entire game for me. You know?
I don't take a lot of screenshots. Like I don't do screen share and all that stuff. That was one of the areas where I stopped and went, I'm gonna do it. I gotta do it. This is probably one of the coolest
Yeah.
backdrops I've ever
Yeah.
seen in a game.
It's
There's a
awesome.
lot of cool like every time you come up to any Mother Crystal, like there's
Yeah.
always like a castle underneath it or the island
The
of
Oriflamme castle is my favorite. The one that has the crystal that kind of goes up like a slope.
Yeah, like the Holy City. Yeah.
Yeah, the Holy
Yep,
City,
yep.
like
Yeah.
that view, because when you go out into that open area and you see it off in the distance, it's like this is so Final
it's just
Fantasy.
purely epic,
Like,
man.
holy
There's so many
shit.
purely epic, like jaw-dropping, like sceneries in this, you know,
Right.
that like, they're just true, like they're just live rent free in my head now. You know what I mean?
The,
Like,
Yeah.
they're-
Fallen
so
Ruins.
like, download your HD wallpapers and put them on your computer
Oh yeah.
today. Because
Throughout the
yeah.
desert too, they had the Fallen Ruins. I think they had the most
Yeah.
in that area too, which was awesome to stumble upon so many archaic things. And there was
People
like
would make,
even a
little
town
settlements
built
inside
around them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Well,
was
like they
so
did with
cool.
the hideaway, right? The second hideaway, like literally
Yeah.
in an airship, like a defunct airship, like
Yeah.
it just the
I like the hideaway too, like that sense of place, like having that
Yeah.
sense of like, hey, I'm this is our area, this is our safe spot. Or
And I knew where
whatever. Like,
everything was.
I
by
like
the
the
end,
layout
too,
of
like,
it.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
It's not obnoxious to run around
Yeah.
and everything like that, you know. Yeah, I
great
really
music.
like
Just
that
so
area.
you can, and there's a box.
I am a major sucker for
Jukebox that
hey,
you
like
can
turn
change the
on like
music.
here's a in-game music machine, like play it.
Yeah.
15
That's
did
so
that
good.
too, where it's
I
like you
had
have a
all
car
the
radio.
one song. I was like,
Yeah,
"Where's the
yeah,
last
yeah.
song?" I was so
Yeah.
It's so
I think I'm
expensive.
missing like one song too. Weirdly, yeah, that's
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
It was like I didn't know that I should be buying them from vendors by the time I should
I
have
was
gotten.
scared. They were always so
Songs.
expensive, and like,
Yeah,
money
exactly.
I didn't sell anything, so like money wasn't tight, but like
But-
I didn't have a lot at the beginning, you know.
Right.
I don't know. There was something unique about the Fallen like architecture because it wasn't like they
Yeah.
they could have gone because they've done this before with Final Fantasy. Whenever it's like there's another world that mirrors this world,
Well,
or
part of-
it's
this is
or
what
something
reminded me.
sci-fi.
This kind of reminded me of Final Fantasy X, where it's like it's not quite sci-fi, you know.
Yeah,
Very echoes
Yes.
of that, the Fallen with like Final Fantasy X's technology, if you will.
But there's nothing
Their sphere
metal.
technology.
it's not metal. It almost like
Yeah,
a bone sort of look and texture to it, but it's like advanced technology. It's like there's something very unique
archaically
about-
advanced. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there
Yeah.
some sort of like
It's just
And yet
it's-
society
for that,
regressed from there, like, or at least humankind
Yeah.
did in the game,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
very interesting how that always kind of happens in all these post-apocalyptic.
And that's exactly
games.
because like that's like in Final Fantasy X, like they live in a post-technology world because they
Yes,
thought
yes.
technology was
Yeah.
like creating
Machina,
sin,
right?
which is
Literally
the bad
Machina.
guy. Yeah, which was manifesting in this giant
Yes.
monster called Sin that was just wrecks
Yeah.
everything all game.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
stopped using technology, and this is like hundreds, if not thousands. I don't remember the timeline of years.
Yeah.
So it is the same thing where it's like,
Yeah.
it's like we're relics of a bygone era, and we
Yeah.
don't live as good as they used to, but we're happy. And
Yeah, you
just
can
trying
literally
to-
see an
just
airship
trying
over
to make it
there.
to
Like,
tomorrow. Yeah.
it was like literally an airship
Yeah,
over there.
and they just
Like,
have to tell people as they grow up over the years, leave it
Yeah.
alone, don't touch it. We're good. Please
Yeah.
do not go over there and
Yeah.
explore and try to make something out of it.
There was like
It-
no area in this game that I didn't like, but
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, I
there
think
were a
every
few
area
that
was
were-
as a visual treat to be in, and they're so
Yes.
varied and unique and everything.
Just
Again, like
only the
true
Torgal
senses of
mission-
spaces here.
Only the Torgal mission for me were like, it was like there's a tree house and there's like another little area and that's it. I was like, oh,
Oh.
okay, all right.
But the treehouse, dude.
And then you
like,
left.
Are you talking about where you get on the boat or whatever?
Yeah.
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 I thought that area was going to be a little bigger than what it was. Not
Yeah.
that much bigger, but like
The
I
moment
still
was
like,
big. I like
The moment was
moment was
great.
really nice,
I was like,
yeah.
oh, that's so sweet. I miss having
Like
a coffee.
Torgal
Yeah.
literally looking for Clive the whole time. Like he's just
Oh
like,
my gosh, dude.
Yeah,
Where's my car?
yeah.
Where's my
The
car?
best boy.
Where's my best friend? Oh my gosh.
"Where's my best friend?"
I
Like,
told you those side quests were way better than people
Oh,
gave credit
speaking
for.
of side
Yeah.
quests, the Dalmekia one, where it's like further down in Dalmekia, it's like in the third act, where you're helping a brother and sister, and
I
the
was
brother
just
Oh, yeah.
going to bring
Fight
that
brother-
up.
yeah.
It's just dead by the end
I'm
of the
like,
story.
this is a
Yeah.
side quest? Like, it just blew my mind.
That's a side quest.
No, that was the one I was gonna bring up because
Yeah.
like he was doing all these things for his sister, and then he ends up, he's trying to get her to live her own life, and he's trying to be a protective brother, and then he ends up sacrificing himself for the entire town. Yeah. To fight, it was a dragon, right? We ended up fighting
it
a
was
dragon.
a tough one. It was just like a level 50 S tier mark or whatever you want to call it.
Big boy.
It was that one took a while to take down for sure. But like, and then the scene right after it is the brother dying, and you're like, I did all that for the guy to die. Oh man.
No, I forgot. I'm gonna change my answer. My favorite character. We have not talked about Dion yet. Like that's probably actually my favorite character.
Awesome. Yeah,
I love Dion.
Is Bahamut the
Dion's
prince?
great.
I
would consider
it's
going
so
gay
cool
for him.
because
hey,
same. Why not?
Very pretty man.
All right.
Very
listen,
pretty.
everybody bitching. Hold on, everybody bitching about people of color, which now in retrospect, when you think about it, the whole like bearers thing
couldn't do that.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes
story,
sense. Yeah. But also, a gay character, and literally he sucks face with the dude, like with his boyfriend. Like
it's okay. Let's not get carried. They didn't commit Kotaku.com.
No, shut up. Yeah, shut up, Polygon.
Unless they do this.
Yeah,
what you want to keep
blowing somebody on? I don't know what you wanted.
Yeah. In the
if it's not full penetration, it's not really gay. That's Kotaku's. Kotaku
oh my gosh. Yeah, it's like every gay representation scene better be Brokeback Mountain tent scene or it doesn't count. That's pretty much it for them.
My thing with Dion is like, and I wanted to kind of get everybody's like, this was my like wow moment. Like, what was the first time that like, oh, whoa, like, and if not the demo, because the demo did end in a pretty big wow moment. But my first major wow moment was meeting Dion, and you get that Bahamut versus Odin fight.
Oh my god,
and
dude.
It's just absolutely epic. I think I texted everybody I could who I knew was ahead of me in the game, and I was like, "Are you kidding me with this?" And just the way that they introduce him, and he's just so cool. He comes back down, after changing to him, and just like a knight cavalry would, like back then.
He would
just go back to his tent and enjoy some leisurely drinks and kissy boy stuff, and
he's behind,
and then he would go back out to fight.
He's a dragoon.
Well, they introduce him so coolly, and I'm like, this character is so cool, and like, they represent him as like he's probably gonna be a guy that you face, or whatever, but he's not a bad guy, he's having this like
I actually
eternalized crisis that's happening with his father.
He's another character I thought they did a good job with, because when they show him, you don't know who he is. You don't know.
He's cool, but the thing is that the game makes it a point that you want to like him.
Yeah,
or not like him, but be like.
But I thought he was going to ultimately be a villain. I never thought he was going to be good. So again, it was another way of being like doing something we didn't expect, but actually in a positive way, instead of like, like I said, like Game of Thrones kind of leans in on like, I'm not saying they do it just for shock, but they obviously did some stuff where it's like, holy crap, you killed somebody I really like, or they were evil and I thought they would be good. Like Dion's somebody I would have been like, when I first saw him, I was like, okay, we're gonna have to fight him. He's gonna be evil.
The DLC is all about Dion. Mark my words.
I hope. I like him.
Kind of like Sid DLC.
But he actually ends up being a really good stand-up character, and his whole backstory, like I absolutely loved after you fight him. They show. Because this is actually what I said. I'm not lying.
Phases of that fight. Jesus Christ.
That fight might be one of my favorite boss fights in all of gaming, just for the pure spectacle.
It's insane. Yeah.
And that will be the next thing we get to, because I did want to talk about boss fights, like your favorite and all that stuff. But what I was saying was that as we fought Dion, right, and we're done with that fight, I even said, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Why did he go crazy?
They show you things out of order sometimes, and you're like, what the hell?
And then they go back and show the scene, and I'm like,
dude,
wait. And they don't tell you. They don't go. I don't think they say previously before you.
No.
And they just play the scene, and I'm like, wait, did this happen before? Wait. That was why he went crazy. Oh,
his dad sacrificed himself for little shit.
Because of Ultima. Because of Ultima.
For baby Ultima,
Baby Ultima.
So I don't think anybody, like, I looked online and perused comments, people were like, I did not see it being the boy. Like, they were so sure it was a Barnabas situation.
There was something off about
where it was the kid.
There was something super off about the boy, but I didn't think that Ultima was living in him. Yeah, that's
exactly.
That's not what I thought. Yeah.
And that is
I actually
a crazy-ass moment, too, after the fight.
I thought Ultima was using the mother because I
thought so too. I thought she was like
all the betraying she did.
But she's just a bitch.
She's just terrible.
She's just an evil bitch. Like She's not.
Dude.
No otherworldly force is taking her over. She's just kind of shitty.
It's a racist bitch. Because she's like, F all
God.
mirrors. You're all dirty. You're unclean. Like,
Yeah.
she just like the worst things.
Hated
Like,
She
Clyde
hated her
so
own
much.
son.
Ugh, yeah.
like, oh my god, what an awful thing.
That was actually one of my favorite moments leading. It's not even the fight itself. It's the moment before the fight where Clive finally sees his mom for the first time after her bitchiness, betrayal, and all that stuff. And he's like, and he's basically, in a sense, giving her the middle finger, like, I will be my brother's shield. And then he summons. It's like fucking I'm always angry in Avengers moment. It's like, it is peak badass. Almost like a middle finger to his mom, like, look at the shit I can do without you. Like, look at how much more powerful I am. And then when the fight's over, I thought she'd be like, that was so badass or something. I don't know. I thought she'd be like,
right. Can I be part of the family again?
But she's just like, like
she like freaks out for whatever reason. She's a lunatic.
Yeah, I guess she was.
She's one of them that I didn't like how she died.
That was weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, what?
Skype glitched. I'm glad that was all of us and not just me.
But now it sounds kind of weird though.
Now everyone sounds
everything's
weird,
a little weird. We're still recording. It didn't stop recording.
Yeah, it didn't stop.
Now I hear everybody normal. Okay,
there we go.
Okay.
But what I was gonna say is that, like, I felt like she was one of those characters where you wanted to see her die a terrible death.
Absolutely.
And I felt like she got off way too easy. Plus, she was the only character that there was a few lines that she said, I was like, this is terribly acted. Like, she was like, and I was like, this is cringe. Like, just kill yourself already. And she did.
And then, fulfilled your wish.
and then she did.
What's actually, I actually like came at it a little bit from an angle of empathy, just from the way that they were writing her, of like when she lost her son, the only son that she cared about, which is still shitty, but she's like incredibly traumatized. And I was like, okay, she's traumatized. Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm not as
I mean, she's traumatized because she's a monster, but
it's her own doing. But I was still like,
doing.
okay, I don't feel like as bloodthirsty now, but at the same time, I was still kind of like, fuck you a little bit.
I had no sympathy.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
You hate women. We got it.
I kind of wanted to like drive over her and then back up and then drive over her again and then like back up a few more.
Yeah,
they
were
definitely way
again,
too nice to her. Way too.
If I could have summoned Ifrit on top of her, so like the fire.
Dude, Hellfire, like the Hellfire orb, like
that will be my brother's shield. Mom, can you come here?
She literally killed your father, who treated you good, by the way.
Yeah,
he seemed like such a good papa. Even like the letter you get from him later, I'm like, best papa
He's
ever.
So mad.
Best papa ever.
He's so great.
Yeah.
All right,
so he is Ned Stark. That's exactly who he is.
He is. So nice.
They did. There's a lot of borrowing from Game of Thrones, but I still feel like they did it where it was like it still felt like
never felt
cheap
to me ever.
Either.
It never felt cheap. They always had their own spin.
It wasn't until they were like fire and ice, and then I was like, oh, the Akashic kind of do resemble the whole ice zombie thing where he's just raising people from the dead. And,
they're 1,000% that. I mean, all of that is.
But I didn't make that connection until we talked about it. I was just like,
but no, but it's it's okay.
It's fine. It's a good version of it. If you're gonna be cliche or rip something off,
I'm just not even gonna watch Game of Thrones at this point. So, and I still.
Oh, you guys never saw Game of Thrones?
No, I haven't.
Just
because by the time the thing freaking finished and there was all the opinions of like this last season's terrible, I was like, I don't even care now.
Don't let the last season, which first of all I didn't think was that bad.
Me neither.
Don't let the last season.
That's 3 out of 3 people here
the
saw
entire
it. Say it's not bad. That's a record.
That's a record.
It's a record.
You'll never find that ever in the history
of... No, never.
I've never
heard more than one other person say that, so...
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
It's always you, right? It's always
you, Jeff. That's
So let's talk boss fights, because I think for me, obviously, we've loved everything about this game, and it deserves all its praise, but I gotta say, the thing that really took me... So the first 10 hours of the game, and I explained this on the podcast, I was still struggling with this doesn't feel like Final Fantasy. I like it, don't get me wrong, I never disliked the game, but I was like, this doesn't feel like Final Fantasy. And then I think the first awe moment was your big boss fight. Look, the first one you have with Garuda is really cool. But it didn't feel as epic as when you first engage with Titan. Literally, not even exaggerating, literally
Right.
takes over 30 minutes to finish that fight. You're just like, this is still going?
There's like three
you just keep
phases.
going.
There's
Yeah.
three phases.
And it got bigger. It just kept getting bigger.
Yeah.
I'm like, this
That's
is
what
so
Kept getting
ridiculous.
more
Yeah.
grander and grander, and that is when
It's
I
a
went,
crescendo effect.
dude,
Yeah.
if this game was called God of War, I wouldn't hear one single person bitch about this game at all.
Yeah, sure.
This game
Yeah.
just blew away, and this is my personal feelings, and nobody's going to change it. These boss fights are more grander and more epic than anything I've played, and I respect what God of War has been doing, honestly, their whole entire franchise, because even the original trilogy had epic boss
Well, the originals
fights.
were
Yeah,
more
yeah, yeah.
epic in their scale, and like
Yeah.
it's a little more pulled back in the
North
last
series,
two
yeah.
games, and
Yeah.
but for the better, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This feels
But
like old God of
these-
War, like where it's like, you know, people were
Yeah.
waiting for those big God of War moments to happen in these last two.
Like I want to climb.
They all
and
got
stab
moved
it in
into
the
this
head or
game,
whatever,
is what
you know?
happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this game, to me, every boss fight was like, sometimes it was they were doing kind of the samey stuff in their boss fights, but I hadn't seen other games actually tackle it the way they did. And Dan had previously mentioned, like, I think one of the big issues with Final Fantasy 15 was that the summons weren't.
Yeah,
A
like
lot of complaints
they're a
about the
huge
summons.
You just kind of
spectacle,
hope
and
it happened.
Yeah, you hope that they happen, but when they do, it is awesome. But it's
is cool.
random. It's
Yeah.
like your
That's what I
health is
hated.
low.
There's nothing that made sense about that either. That
Yeah.
it had to be random.
So it's kind of
why?
like the summons works how it works in Final Barline, where it's just like, oh, I guess it's time for a summons. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where they got it from.
Comes
You're
out
right.
of nowhere.
They
Figured
did
it out,
look
guys.
really cool, but like this game is like, again, the story is so involved with summons, and you literally
This is the
are
summon
Ifrit
part.
as
Yeah.
this is and it's like you are literally Ifrit as Clive, and
Which
and
is the
you
first time a Final Fantasy game did this, correct? Where we could just play as a summon.
So in Final Fantasy X, you can summon. So when you summon, you bring them out into the screen. You basically then they're like sort of like beside Yuna, and they have moves like attack, and like you can use spells and abilities. So you can actually use them right in combat.
Yeah,
Like
but you can do that in Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm talking like you're actually
Control
They
them,
still
walk around
they
as them.
act on their own in for the most part in Remake. In 10, you actually like tell them what to do. You actually tell them to
I
attack.
tell them what to do in Remake. Do I have some like special code? I build up my ATB
Well, then
and
it
then
was
I
much
tell
more
them what to
simple.
do.
It was much simpler then in
Oh, okay.
Remake. Yeah, like they had a
Gotcha.
health bar in 10 and everything. Like they could
I think I remember because I did
Yeah,
beat
yeah.
10. It's literally
Oh,
been
wow.
like
Yeah. But you're not turning into Ifrit like you are in this. Like you are like Clive is
Yeah.
Ifrit.
This
He
is
is
more
the
of
second
an Attack on Titan type of vibe.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I feel
So
like
Attack on
that
Titan, yeah.
that alone, like that was when I first got to one of those fights where it was like you're having this epic battle and then you become their equal and then you two are now fighting. So you go from sword fights like humans to now fully primed and
Just love that
completely-
escalation. Like,
Yeah,
we're gonna
like-
fight
Yeah.
as humans first, and then we'll
Yes.
go into like a half mode, and then we'll go into like a full blown.
Which by
Oh
the
there
way,
might be more
the
beyond
limit
that,
break.
yeah.
Yeah, the
it's just
limit break
Devil
is-
Trigger,
comes
right?
first.
Well, it's Devil
Yeah.
Trigger,
It's
right?
Devil Trigger, yeah.
It's
1000%
basically just Devil Trigger.
yeah.
But it looks awesome though. Like
yeah, it's
it
super
looks
cool.
fantastic. But I
Yeah,
love
do
I
like
love
those
that they call it
escalations.
Limit Break, by the way, too, because they've called that
Yeah.
different things in different Final Fantasies. And Limit Break's just always been my favorite term of that, like power up. So I also another homage that they called it Limit Break. So I
I
love
was
that.
actually surprised that the potion that revives you isn't called Phoenix Down. That actually
Sure.
threw me off.
Sure.
Yeah, I was like,
That is
okay.
kind of. It's
I
like
think it was just called
elixir-
Last Potion or something. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
last elixir or something like that.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I was
all
like,
right.
why wouldn't it be called whatever? Because
Phoenix
Down,
Down,
Phoenix
yeah,
Down for
I'm used to
something
Phoenix
else.
Down too. Yeah.
Yeah, they
I
used Phoenix
had
Down for
it
something else,
equipped
but yeah.
and it auto like I went to like heal myself on like not even a hard fight and I didn't do it in time and it used it and it's like you can't buy another one. I'm like
Yeah, mine got used at some point too.
that was such
Uh-uh.
that was the dumbest one to use it on. Why did you do that?
I don't know
didn't wanna
where it
do
got
that.
used because I like never died in this game, like not even once. So I didn't know. At some point I must have gotten hit by like a hunt or something that I wasn't paying attention.
It was a hunt
Oh,
fight
oh.
for me. It wasn't a high level one.
There's
That's
one
why
of
I
the
was
enemies.
annoyed.
At least two of the enemies have attacks that if you're in the middle of it at any point, your health goes
Is
by
the
now.
floating eye, right? The floating eye.
The floating eye does one, but you can kind of get out of the attack field. But then there's one that's like a tornado, and if you get in it, your health just goes all the way down. And then if they hit you,
the tornado. I do remember that. Yeah.
I died, I think, to that one once.
Yeah, that's a real bitch. I don't remember who it is. It's like I think it might be the Undertaker. I can't remember. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. That's what he says to you. Man.
Rises up.
I think
They
it was on the
literally
Wade
copied and pasted from the WWE.
Yeah, Paul Bear comes out. It's crazy. Yeah.
You have the list in the notes of the bosses. I think it might be the Arm Giant, because then you fight him again as a Notorious Mark.
I loved all the hunts. I thought the hunts were so great.
I
thought it was a really good way to be like, hey, remember that thing that you fought in the story? Here's a remix version of that or whatever.
And then there were the most challenging things too.
Yeah, the level 50 dragon was actually pretty challenging.
That level 50 dragon was...
he really put up a fight. Yeah.
And anytime the Griffin,
I was level 41 when I fought because I didn't know he was 50, so I walked in 9 levels under him. And
I did the same thing unintentionally. Like, I mean, y'all were way more under level than me, but I was like 44 or something like that, and I was like, I don't want to fight the level 50 until I'm 48, and I just went, oh shit! Like immediately comes in, and it's like, oh, dragon, I'm level 50, and I'm like, oh my god, no!
Yeah.
Well, I died to at least once. I think it was just once. Yeah, it was once. And then I was like, should I do it? Because I was like, should I do it? Because like because at that time I was like, I hadn't died a lot in the game. I was like, well, I died probably because I'm just too underleveled. And I was like, well, let's try it one more time. And I barely beat him. Like it was the most epic battle I had. I had used like all my potions, and I think I was down to, if he hits me one more time, I'm gonna die. Yeah. And I got off one last attack.
And by that point in the story, you don't have the potion capacity increase at that point, right? Like, I mean, I think you were very early.
Yeah, I was fighting him. Like, I remember because I remember not too long later, I got the last like potion upgrade. I was like, this would have been helpful for that stupid dragon.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. The Griffin also was kind of the pain in the ass. He's not one of the bosses, but he is one of the marks. Where he does like a dive on you, and it doesn't matter if
he was hard
blocking or whatever. But like, no matter what, it won't. I had the slow-mo dodge on. It was supposed to tell me to dodge for every attack right before, so I could get a precision dodge, and it would not tell me every single time. So I would get hit every time. It would take off like a quarter.
It's probably considered an undetectable move or something.
Yeah, it's like an undetectable.
Yeah. There's some moves that just you don't get the select.
I'm not trying to like toot my own horn here, but I had none of those accessories on, and I am amazing at dodging in this game. I am amazing.
It feels good.
I don't have any.
Listen,
I was better at parry because that made me feel badass when that happened.
One of the accessories that I did wear, and I never used those accessories either. I used Torgal for like a minute, and then I stopped. Yeah. I didn't need to use it. I got used to it. But
I got used to just spamming square and like up and down. Like
that kind of feels like near.
I used the precision dodge one, the like epic precision dodge one, where like it gives you more strength or whatever. Like you go into like you literally turn on fire.
Oh, the Berserker ring. The Berserker. Yeah, that's the one that I had. Yeah, because it would slow-mo dodge, right? And then you'd start doing the fiery slashes. Yeah. That was sick. That feels good.
You know what? That bothered me because I was like, no, I want to get more quick attacks in. I unequipped that pretty quickly, even though it was visually quite cool. I was like, no, I'm used to a certain rhythm now. Now it's breaking up my rhythm.
Yeah, see, because I got used to that because even though it slows down, I would basically I would try to pay attention. Like, they're gonna attack again, so I would time the dodge again. It would do another slow-mo.
I think shortly after you get that ring, you then get the Titan ability, which is better. So. In my opinion, it's better to block as Titan at the last minute and then just unload, you know.
And we could talk about, because I know you wanted to do the gameplay stuff. I didn't have the Titan block as one of my main things. So
I did eventually.
Okay. Because
I didn't. Before we do that, I know Kyle said that Bahamut was your favorite boss fight, right?
Yeah. What was again the escalation of that one was. And just watching him rain down on his own city, like just all of it was just so the spectacle, man. Like I just couldn't, my jaw just couldn't just get off the floor during that whole fight. And that was another like 45-minute.
You're literally in space.
You end up in space, like doing a Dragon Ball Z fight.
Freaking Dragon Ball Z fight.
He's doing like spirit bombs at each other and something.
You Voltron with your brother, and suddenly you're a Mega.
Voltron with your brother, so you can fly. Yeah.
I like was speechless.
I was speechless, dude. I was absolutely speechless. I walked upstairs and like
It's like Power
my roommate wasn't
dude.
he wasn't caught up to that yet, and I was just like,
I
dude, I don't know, I can't even talk to you about it, dude. And I just walked away. He's like,
I
that
was
really
so
confusing.
overwhelmed by some of these boss fights that I literally got up and started writing an article how I can't give this game a 10 out of 10 because there's not enough colored people. But I want to tell you, it was really
Colored
good.
people. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's a choice.
No, I was making fun of the Game
That's
Informer
relevant.
Yeah, no,
review
I saw
where
what
he
you're doing.
literally says like, "This is two of the greatest moments in all of gaming." 8.5, not enough colors. But like,
Jesus.
Yeah.
but the game,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the boss fights, every
Stakes
time
are out there.
every time I'd go from one boss fight to the next, I would just be like, I don't know. I honestly don't know how you guys are doing. Like the feelings and emotions that it was giving me were of nothing. I know the word gets overused, but it really was. It was like, this feels epic. This feels bigger than anything I've ever experienced. I honestly have trouble even saying what my favorite one is. I want to say that it's got to be Barnabas, was probably just because of his
With the
aesthetic.
inside the ocean, yeah.
Yeah, and that is my favorite. Like when he did that, when he cut the ocean
Oh,
open,
and I love he kicks your ass in that one too. That's a good one.
Yeah.
He kicks your ass like a couple times. Yeah. It's pretty good.
he literally.
No, but
beat-
I like so that specific part with Barnabas where he cuts the ocean, like that is such a cool ongoing motif of obviously men like meddling with powers of gods and stuff like that. But like the stakes of being like that was just a move that he did.
Oh
and
yeah.
it literally split the ocean. You know what I mean? Like and it like to the point where like ships were falling in and yada like it was just so like, oh man, like the stakes are so high. Or anytime Shiva fights somewhere, like that area is just frozen forever now. You know what I mean? Like it's just the scars that these people leave like on the earth after a big fight. Especially Ifrit, everywhere he goes, he leaves a giant crater somewhere because he has to like blow up like Vegeta or something.
Yeah.
You know, in the
I'm
middle of a
so
fight.
angry.
So it's like it's so epic just watching this stuff like unfold because like you know these people shouldn't have these powers and the scars that they're leaving on this earth are just like it's just so entertaining.
I think
we
my,
talk about like Uncharted has like great set pieces and stuff like this. I feel like they nailed these boss fights as far as that feeling of what Uncharted does with set pieces. What they did with these boss fights.
Yeah,
like,
the boss fights were the set pieces. Yeah,
and they're like
so great
interweaving different gameplay elements because it's not just literally physically attacking. There's literally almost like a bullet hell element at some points too. Like when you're playing as Phoenix, right? You're literally projectile like shoot. You have the little circle thing. You have to move that to aim at. Like it suddenly becomes like a shmup. Like you're just like and you're holding the attack and you're still dodging too, which like you do as Clive. You're trying to time your dodges to do like an extra little boost of an attack like and as you do each boss fight, Clive is like, oh, I'm gonna power up, and then he learns like a new ability. So he learns that like shield thing that if you time correctly, so then you don't take damage, but then you actually explode outwards. And then he has just a freaking Kamehameha move that he does because I mean that's
I think it was the Bahamut fight where he releases a bunch of like lasers, but there's only one opening. And you have to like dodge and then run through the openings.
Yeah.
That I think it was Bahamut. I could be wrong.
Felt like Returnal. Yeah.
I love that. I thought at first I was like, dude, I can't do this. They don't give me
Returnal
enough time.
instincts kicked in. And I was.
And then finally, awesome. I got the gist of it, and I was like, dude, this is freaking awesome. You're like just zigzagging all the way to get to the boss.
Doing that like Bahamut does like that double Kamehameha like opposite directions and he's like spinning it and you're like trying to dodge.
Yeah, I always like dodge to get in there and just like start pummeling him while he's spinning. I'm like, you're gonna stop that right now.
Yeah. Cut off this racket, sir.
Speaking of Bahamut, the way he goes out is his like final, like, hey, I got one more like pretty good like shot in, but like
kind of falls down.
Well, he redeems himself too. I loved his story arc because like
there's a full arc.
He had so much guilt and shame and sorrow, and then the way he's able
he knew he was going there to die. You know, like you didn't even know if you could turn back. Like he obviously had more sentience than the other icons, you know, but like. Which, like, assuming his willpower was all part of his arc as well, you know. So it's just like it was really good. I liked his character a lot. And like, him getting that last hit in was just super rad. You know?
The way that Ultima says, "Oh," like just a monotone.
So good.
Oh,
I love that moment.
Blasted.
Yeah.
They all just go.
By the way,
splinter
yeah,
out.
you
They
mentioned
splinter
boss
out
fights.
around, which is another like beam battle Dragon Ball Z moment where like where they're just using beams in a really cool way.
I think I might be three-way tie for me of Bahamut, Ultima, and the Titan one. Because
so good.
The Titan, he literally goes colossal, I guess. Let's just call it. Use Attack on Titan terminology.
Yeah.
And you're like still tiny ass.
You're like running up his tentacles and arms.
And you're running up him and
he's like firing them at you and.
It rivaled the Jedi Survivor set piece of like doing portals and stuff.
Yeah, it did. No, because that felt like a big moment. This felt like a way bigger moment.
It did. It was huge.
Yeah. Which I think all of us at that moment for Jedi Survivor were like, that's like one of the best things video games ever done. And then like Final Fantasy's like, hold my beer, guys. Hold my mead.
You do that like 5 times in the game. Yeah, exactly.
So the boss fights.
Bahamut's my favorite first.
Yeah,
favorite boss fight. Yeah, Bahamut is my favorite.
Titan might be mine, especially because going into it, like with Bahamut, it was kind of like, what the hell's going on? We don't understand.
Yeah.
With Hugo, you knew like, I'm gonna go destroy this guy.
I want to beat this guy so bad. Yeah.
I hate him so much.
I love that moment too, where Clive is like, "Hey, buddy, I actually am the one who killed your girlfriend or whatever."
Yeah.
Like I just thought Clive gets some good zingers in this. He gets some good suave moments in this, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the other question that we. So Hugo gets really mad because he gets basically what we think is her head sent to him. Yeah. So I actually think that was Ultima who did that as well, because absolutely. Clive doesn't actually know.
Well, it was like Barnabas and his boy, right? Wasn't it his? I think it was his little right-hand man.
Well, I think Barnabas was the one that sent it, but I think it was Ultima.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The machinations of Ultima.
The machinations.
Yeah, exactly. It was Ultima through as Barnabas's naked mom or whatever.
Dude, that was so creepy.
Dude, another like Game of Thrones moment. I'm like, we gotta have some incest. We got.
I guess so. Like when I opened, you should have seen my face when I opened the active time lore, which is still one of the best features in the game. And it was like Barnabas's mom, and I was like, "That's his mom!" Like I just like,
yeah.
Like, oh, she's fine though. Okay.
Yeah.
If she's that fine, I mean, are you really gonna be that upset?
Sure,
Barnabas's mom's got it going on. No.
All right, so why don't we close it down with because we've covered the story, we love it, we covered the ending. Unless you guys want to add on anything else, we've covered the boss fights. Let's shut it down with like, what were your favorite icons, and if you can remember, what was your main build? Like, did you switch it up a lot, or were you pretty consistent? I know once I got my moves leveled, maxed out, I stuck with the same thing, and even I think I'm about 6 or 7 hours into New Game Plus, and I really haven't changed anything. I've found my rhythm. It's literally a pattern that I know how to do that just comes now organically, and I've stuck with it. So I'm curious what you guys, what's your favorite iconic and your abilities and builds for the combat?
I have to look at mine. I got it from a website.
Okay.
I know mine off the top of my head. I use Phoenix. I switched most of the game. I'll just say that.
Okay.
I was always cashing my points back in and buying. Like I just like, let me try this real quick. Let me try this setup or whatever. Ultimately, the best damage output that I found for the way that I was playing was Odin, Titan, and Bahamut. Those were my 3 main, and I would just unload those mega flares, and I would just build up Zenatsu or whatever to do the sword strike with Odin, and like that would just peel away people's HP. So I wasn't doing a lot of stagger damage, but I was always taking chunks of HP away.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that, but I used Phoenix stuff for the most of the game though. It wasn't until the very end that I was like, I gotta get Phoenix out of here. You're like beginning of the game.
I actually never got rid of it because I love the teleport to the enemy.
It's so good. In fact, I stopped being able to fight airborne enemies well after I got rid of that, sadly.
Yeah.
Because like that's how I always got to them. It's like you would teleport up to them, you could just start swinging on them. So it's like
I do like that
Phoenix actually kind of switched up my gameplay a lot.
So, like, for instance, I really like Bahamut's special abilities, but I don't like his, what is it, Mega Flare or whatever?
Giga
I think
Flare.
Yeah, because he kind of slowly like drifts, and you're kind of trying to.
I
Wait
get that it's
That one
powerful and you
does,
can
yes,
build it
very.
up.
Powerful. Oh gosh, it
Like-
just peels their HP away.
Oh
man.
my gosh!
So
when you
that-
stagger them,
And I
that
get
move-
right
feel
up
that.
on them too. I
Yeah.
get right
So
up on them. And
I
just, like,
use that
you
move.
know,
What
like-
I'm talking about is when you hit circle and he like hovers.
Oh,
and
I like
building
that.
up
your
That's really
Mega
good for crowd
Flare.
control.
Yeah.
That's good for crowd control. If I
Yeah.
had party members, I would let them fight, and I would build that up to like 2 level, and I'd unleash that, and then just go in there, and like
Yes.
usually everyone was dead by the time.
Yeah,
it was
he
over.
actually had it under Bahamut. There was an ability like that too. There was an ability that would kind of shoot off all
That's
these little.
what I
individual
used.
blasts.
That's what
Okay.
I used.
Yeah,
Oh,
'cause
okay.
It actually
yeah.
stuns all the enemies.
Yeah,
and
it was
builds
good for
that up.
chipping away the stuff. Yeah,
It
exactly.
actually
Yeah.
wasn't until the trial that I found I had a lot of like product. I was very productive with Sid's ability, whatever that one was, the lightning one. Because at first I was like, this is
Yeah.
dumb. At least the inherent ability, the circle ability, was kind of dumb to me. Like it just never
Yeah, I
paid
hate
I
off.
didn't like it either. Yeah.
But
I
then,
hated that.
in the trial, you're kind of forced to use the other options available, and I was like, man, these are super powerful. I never used
Mhm.
these.
The
I
light-
could have
yeah.
mastered them, put them on my build, whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rama was my main. Like I used pile
nice.
drive and whatever the big lightning, like his big
Yeah, the
special move where he
yeah,
shoots
big
the
special,
lightning
yeah.
off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are my two
Very
favorite
powerful.
because not only do they have like power, but they have really high stun.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
if I could stun you quickly, I would save those for my. They weren't my most powerful because I was still using Giga Flare. That is hands down. It's a 5-star. It's the most powerful move you can use. But I would use the lightning
that,
as
dude.
as both power and
Oh,
setup.
might have something to say about that.
That
I said
Odin?
Odin might have something to say about that.
well, I
Odin, yeah.
just switched to Odin, but even
the level
still,
5 unsheathing sword technique, once you have it is hands down the most powerful thing in the entire
Yes,
game.
it's insane.
those
It
It's
does
just
take a
building
bit to
up
like,
to it
yeah,
takes
it
a
does
bit,
take
yeah.
a second to build it up, but once you get the flow of that,
but there are
Man.
builds where you can actually against bosses when you do stun them, like they tell you how to stun them, but once you stun them, where you can, and I'm forgetting the order, but you can basically, you've already built up that special move for Odin. You use that move as a 5-star, then you go immediately into it's Giga Flare, right? Is it Giga
Yeah.
or Mega?
Giga.
Giga Flare. You go into Giga Flare, and then you go back and you build up the 5-star by doing a different move, like the sword thing that builds
Yeah.
up the 5.
There's
and then
there's
you unleash.
two in a row that like build it up
Yes.
very quickly,
Yeah.
especially if you button mash.
if you do them right back to back and get every
Yeah.
hit, you
I
have a
watched
5
the
pretty
guy
quick.
do it, and he was getting like 250,000.
Yes, it was
I
ridiculous.
crazy. The
Yeah,
highest I ever
I
got
stuck
was
with-
150.
Yeah,
or
I think I never hit 100, but I definitely got the achievement for 50, and then I got up to like 90s by the end
I'll
of
have
the
to
game.
go back and look. Yeah.
But anyway, I stuck with Phoenix. I used the Rising Flame, which is the uppercut. It does a lot
Yep.
of good damage when they're staggered.
Nice
And then the
classic.
Flames of Rebirth is just so much fun to use when they're staggered too. I stuck with Garuda, but I used Gouge and Giga Flare. I equipped Giga Flare from Bahamut. Gouge is only when they were halfway staggered. And Garuda obviously allows you to.
Yeah,
Hold
that's
them
the thing.
toward
With I hung on to
So-
Garuda for a long time because I really missed that.
I
Move
love that.
specifically.
And then like
Yeah.
using Gouge, like you can just button mash square as you're doing it, and he just doesn't stop. He doesn't stop, so it's just constantly taking their stagger meter down. And so that would bring their stagger meter down. Immediately to go to Giga Flare, so that one can build up as I'm doing more staggered damage when they're staggered. And then Odin, hopefully I would be going into boss fights. I try to come in already with 5, level
That's
5.
what I do. I
Yeah.
grinded
Yeah, that's
outside
what
of
you
boss
wanna
fights
do.
and run in.
Yeah, exactly. So like I would just unfreaking load on these people when they're staggered. Like it just felt so.
Some of the
frustrating.
end game hunts for me were so easy because of all these
Yeah.
like really powerful mastered abilities that I had, where I would just
Yeah.
run in with everything. I would do like my
These poor
automated
guys.
like thing, and like half their health would be gone, and they're level 49, and I'm like, all right, yeah.
These poor guys.
Sounds about
they
right.
never stood a
I
chance.
think if you wanted to make any type of complaint, and I think it's a semi-valid complaint, I do think the game was a little too easy. Not that I wanted a frustrating
Yeah.
experience. I don't want a Dark Souls experience. Yeah. But I do think there was very few times that I felt like it was really challenging because
Yeah,
it is really accessible and you can create your own builds and you can make very, very, very powerful builds.
I think it actually kind of so I think it actually is a little bit of like the Souls thing of like, so I know I always kind of joke around about like, oh, Souls, whatever, but like what I've always respected is like definitely like the way they approach designing the enemies and the bosses, and that like there is a pattern and the enemies come at you in certain ways and you see the movements and they're actually doing multiple attacks. There's multiple stages of attacks, right? Especially with their bosses in those games. And in this game, like all the basic enemies would like essentially swipe at you once, right? Maybe 2 times. And it's like, okay, like why aren't they kind of coming at me a little more aggressively? Like, why isn't there a little more to this pattern? You know what I mean?
I think Final Fantasy mode does that.
Yeah, so
ups the aggression a little. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, I heard Final Fantasy mode.
So they actually do come at you a little. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, because that's why my conspiracy theory was that we were all playing the easy mode and Final Fantasy mode's like your regular mode.
I think Dan gives a good counterpoint to the point I'm about to make. I think that's actually because I do wish they were a little more aggressive. I didn't mind it being easy. Like you are kind of playing a god, you know, like
exactly.
I don't mind a power fantasy game where like you're just supposed to be powerful, and that's what it is, you know. But like I do. To your point, Dan, I do wish that they were just coming at me a little harder.
Yeah, like take a couple more swipes, you know.
Have a couple different more animations, yada yada. Animations, you know? I think that's where the complaint lies. Whereas, like the complaint of it being too easy is totally a subjective. Like, I like easy games, I like hard games.
But that's why I like the hunts, right? The hunts,
the hunts
they
push
came
back
at you a little more.
If you want something to push back on you, some of those hunts will push back. So
yeah.
But no, I didn't mind it being a power fantasy. But I think it's a totally valid criticism to bring up in terms of, you know, like expectations for a game, you know.
I get that. Yeah.
There were Final Fantasy bosses when it was turn-based, especially in 10, that like I would die 100 times. Like fighting Unalesca, like come on. Like that's
I'm still trying to beat Final Fantasy 13. So
yeah, I mean it's so there is like a DNA to Final Fantasy where it's like there are hurdles in these games where like it wants you to stop and reevaluate how you play the game, and that was not there. So I think that, you know,
like I want like a weapons level type of fight, you know, an Emerald and Ruby weapon or an Ozma from Final Fantasy IX.
And I think it's hard to develop games now. And this is just my opinion on it. But just trying to look at it, like this media is huge. It's probably one of the biggest in the world right now. So you've got a lot of fans, and I think it's difficult to sell people on with not just the amount of games you want to sell personally. You have a lot of competition. So every time you release a game, you're competing against a lot of other games. So you're competing for a lot of attention. If you make something really difficult, and I know people are gonna be like, Souls games sell like crazy. I get that, but that's their DNA. Like that's
how many people
they
beat
are.
Those too? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
not a lot of people finish those games.
Yeah,
why do you think
I think data supports that. Yeah.
That's why when somebody does finish it, they're like, it's the best game ever played. Is it really the best game, or is it because you're like you feel like you did something special?
Right.
Because I know for me, I love those games to death, but it's a lot of it is I did something special. I did something special. Right. But my point is like I don't think with a game that's trying to be story driven like Final Fantasy 16, it wouldn't have been beneficial to be very difficult. Yeah. And I'll admit, I've struggled with older Final Fantasy games, like I've said with 13 and so on, where I'm just not smart enough. And even Octopath Traveler 2, F off with some of those end bosses.
Yeah,
like here I am just cruising, leveling up. I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm gonna beat this game, and then I get to the last boss. I'm like, dude,
imagine being in one of these cool epic boss fights and dying over and over again, and it destroying the pace of how cool and epic those fights are. You know what I mean? So it's like
getting to what I'm trying to say.
Oh, I didn't mean to butt in. Yeah, but
no. That's exactly where I was going.
The Titan fight being 3 phases. Imagine getting to the second phase and then like you just die. Like you're like, oh. Okay.
And you have to hear the monologue again, and I don't want to deal with all that, you know.
So like, that's why I feel
like if you kept on dying during these boss fights,
my conspiracy theory is they're not going to come out and say They're not going to come out and say the first playthrough is easy. I really think they designed this game going, we're going to have 2 playthroughs because we already know our hardcore fans are going to bitch about how easy this game is. And I think the second mode or the second playthrough is more. I know I haven't experienced anything really hard in it, but I did notice
you're also
that
60 hours into a game that you fully understand the mechanics of now too.
Exactly.
So you're starting at the game where it wants to meet
pushing back a little bit more. And I will tell you where I think it will get frustrating is, and if you guys haven't played it, and I don't know if there's an option to turn it back on. They turn off the QTE QuickTime event like button prompts. So I know you could be like, well, there's only 2 buttons. It's R1 or square. But when you're fighting in those matches and you've got a bunch of things going on, and then you know that you have to push one of those buttons, but it doesn't pop up, and you just instinctively hit R1, but you're really supposed to be swinging.
Now it makes sense why that window's so big now.
Yes.
You know, like you have to think about it. Like, do I hit or?
Yeah. So when I was fighting Garuda or whatever, she's the only major boss that I fought. I was messing up on those QTEs that I never ever messed up on my first playthrough, and you take damage when you mess up, or you do less damage to them if you don't do it right. So I definitely can see the boss fights becoming like, okay, this is kind of a bitch because of this. And even the normal enemies are way tougher. There's like an armor knight you fight in the forest a couple of times, and he is not easy to take down. He takes a lot of hits, and he does a lot of wicked damage. So I really think New Game Plus is for those who are like, hey, I want a more difficult Final Fantasy experience.
It's Devil May Cry
That's
mode.
what I'm used to. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. Overall, I give this game a 10 out of 10. I think it's the best game to come out this year. I know there's a lot of great games coming, and I know I'm going to get excited about it, but I really do think this one has a shot to be my favorite. Where would you guys, if you like ranking things, if you don't like ranking things, don't. What would you rank this? Or if you had to give it a score, what would you give it?
Actually, before we do the ranking, because it's incredibly important to the series, music. We didn't discuss thoughts on music.
Oh, yeah. The music
Go ahead.
great.
So I'm curious what you guys think. It's my show? Oh, okay.
It's your show, Dan.
I muted it. I don't like music.
Oh, okay. Oh, you hate music?
I made sure I talked really loud whenever the music played. No, there was.
I think epic choirs are corny. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There was like a couple. I don't know the song.
Choirs.
But there's like one song that like would play in a certain scene. I don't remember which one it was, but I kept going back to the area just so I could hear the song.
Yeah.
I want to say it's somewhere on, and probably I bet you it's in the your hideaway.
I was gonna say I like cozy.
There's
town
something
songs,
that like
and there are a
builds,
lot. Every
but
every
there's like
town
a
has like
soft
a cozy song.
like beauty to it that I really liked. And I don't remember. It just kept playing over and over. I was like, I really like this song. This is a really good song. But overall, I really like
that plays during every boss fight.
Yeah.
With the strings and everything like that.
I liked how there was such drastic different styles. Like there's I don't know if you guys remember early on in the game, he's like a guy who gives you some quests in probably late Act 1 or maybe Act 2. I've heard his voice acting before. I think he's a main actor that he's been in a lot of movies. But he's the guy that like makes you sleep on the floor. Like he only offers to let you sleep on.
The town, the town leader guy.
That town, like they just do like finger picking guitars. It's real subtle and really like ambient. Like it sounds. It reminds me of like a Last
cozy town music. Yeah.
Bearers. He's the dude that's protecting the bearers, right?
Yeah.
Like
they end up leaving because of the ether flood to go live on.
I actually want to look him up because I feel like he's been in a lot of movies and shows. But yeah, overall, I really liked a lot of the.
This is at Lost Wing.
Yeah, Lost Wing. That's what it's called. Yeah, all the music was appropriately epic, and then and again, like I keep saying, appropriately cozy when it needed to be. Like it just the music just rocked. They it's a big surprise there, you know.
I thought there were some good standouts for sure.
I
slightly disagree with the variety. I thought there could have been a little bit more, just because Soken is capable of like a crazy amount of variety. But to be fair, because he's the composer of Final Fantasy XIV, that's an MMO, which is a much lengthier thing. There's expansions, so he has just much more room to like do some wacky stuff. The wackiest thing in this game is the Titan fight. The music during that fight.
Like, where it goes into like the full on boom, boom. Is that the part where?
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe what the genre is in that fight, but it's not just orchestral like the regular orchestral that you're hearing for most of the game. Like,
yeah, it's way different.
It's really odd, but like in a fun way. Like it's very different.
It struck me as very anime.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
That I've watched.
Yeah.
Is Hugo the fight where
it's like a
the
mix
Titan
of
fight,
metal and pop?
yeah, but isn't there a part where
orchestral.
it literally goes on almost into like dubstep? Or is
it was like the first Ultima fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like boom, boom, boom,
So
and I'm like, what the hell is this?
Dude, that was epic. Now that was awesome.
It was just startling.
That's what
It just took
Soken
me
does.
by surprise.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, Soken is wild like that. My favorite song is actually it was actually in the very first epic fight, which is Titan versus Ifrit, or not Titan. I'm sorry, Phoenix versus Ifrit.
Yeah.
Which I think is Phoenix's theme because it kicks in again when you're Phoenix going against Bahamut.
Oh, okay.
Like that song to me, like just feels so Final Fantasy to me. Like it feels the most Uematsu to me, out of all of the music in the game. But he didn't make anything in this game. I definitely really enjoyed a lot of the music overall. The vibe of it was very appropriate for each of the settings. Like when you're in the Dalmaskian area, like that music is just very appropriately like a desert area.
Yeah,
like it's just perfectly
matches.
like desert. Yeah.
I love the dynamic battle music too. Like
Yes.
how it would drop out and then when it would come back in, it would kind of come back in almost like you left it on pause, or it would like kind of resume where like it was muted basically in the background, and then it senses, oh, there's enemies near, let's pick it back up. And like the battle music's just so good. It was like almost like I was scouring for enemies just to hear it again. It was so good.
Yeah, just the regular battle music is really
just the regular fighting normies.
And that's important.
Yeah.
The regular battle music is you're gonna be hearing it the whole game.
All the time. For hours and hours and hours.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I do want to say though that I think for me the music in this one is it's not like my favorite compared to some of the other ones, but I don't hate it.
Oh no, I mean some of the other ones are some of the greatest in gaming, so it's like it's going against the best. You know what I mean? So
I think it's really
hard. It's hard for me to dock it, other than just being like, other are my favorite, but like this was
like
still
it was
really
the
good.
strongest with the boss fights, I think. But then there's just a lot of like when you're just roaming around, it's just like, oh, this is chill and kind of like this is nice. But like there wasn't like a ton of like, I don't know, like because obviously like I love 7, so like just 7's main theme to me like gives me goosebumps still to this day. Final Fantasy 8 has one like Man with the Machine Gun is like unbelievable. Like that song is insane. I love that song.
Unbelievable.
So it's just some iconic music in the series. So there's some in this one. I was hoping for more. But
I thought the main theme that kind of comes in and out through most of the big battles where it was, at least for me, extremely memorable, and like I'll always remember it as like a Final Fantasy theme.
Give it more time, Dan. Maybe you'll come around.
Well, listen to it on its own, dude.
The prelude theme or the crystal theme is what you could call it too. But there's like a dark. I don't know if you guys noticed that
that kicks in.
It's like a darker version. It's almost
Isn't
like
it an organ. It's like an organ or something.
Yeah, it has like a darker, ominous tone, and they've never done that with the prelude.
Very gothic approach to that.
And it was that was amazing. That was really.
I having played Final Bar, like all of those songs, many of them several times before jumping into this game, definitely gave me a perspective on the music that I didn't expect before going into the game at all. But like knowing that the guy who did Final Fantasy 14 and all of the expansions or whatever you want to call it, add-ons since then, knowing that was him, I was like, oh, so this is going to be like one of my favorite pieces of music, because that is my favorite library in Final Bar lines.
14, right? I mean, 14 is a lot of
I know it's like
favorite,
40 songs, so its quantity helps, but it's so varied. It's so different.
Yeah, he does all such weird different things. Like
it's insane.
Yeah.
All right. So you liked it, but didn't love it as much as other Final Fantasy games.
Oh,
I personally, again, I don't have much to compare it against. I've played a lot of Final Fantasy, but I will be the first to admit, I hardly pay attention. Like, I am so into like the gameplay, the world and setting, I don't even realize if I like the music or not. That's why I normally am like, if you're like, rate your favorite, like when we do game of the year stuff, like your favorite soundtrack and stuff, I'm like, dude, I don't care. I don't listen to this stuff outside. The only ones that I ever remember is like a main theme. Like if you'll ask me now, I'll tell you Dragon Age Inquisition and Ori and the Blind Forest are probably two of my favorite, and it's just the main themes.
Yeah.
I just listen to the main themes. That's all.
It honestly wasn't something that was prevalent to me aside from Final Fantasy until I was older. Like, I think when I was like back in the day as a kid, I was like, oh, yeah, music, that's nice. Except for Final Fantasy, I would definitely notice.
I just didn't realize how important it was to the visual medium until I watched the score documentary. And then I was like, oh, I got to pay attention to this more. Like, it actually really inspired me to like, listen to it outside of like movies or video games, to listen to it on its own.
I'm the odd duck out. I've always been into like the music, and I always bought like the original soundtracks, like for movies to hear like the score.
That's
for
cool,
stuff.
man. I wish I was that. I really did wish I had appreciation for it.
Back on the podcast, I mean, this is the podcast, but back a couple episodes ago, I even mentioned I was like, me and all my friends were really into MIDI music and downloading chip tunes and stuff like that. Like we were super into all of that and like jamming out to video game music growing up.
Yeah, see, I like that stuff now. Like I enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, so do I. But yeah, it started at a really young age. You know.
See, so for you, it was like the OST, like the actual like classical, whatever you want to call it, scoring.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like the Batman Forever soundtrack with the actual.
I mean, I got those too.
You know, like that type of stuff. Right. That's the stuff that I was.
I got to get the Not Another Teen Movie soundtrack. All those songs are bangers, man.
Yeah,
Not Another Teen Movie soundtrack.
Yeah,
it's really good.
It's so good. Yeah,
just the music in that movie is great. I've always been an original soundtrack guy. I don't know why. I've always loved orchestra, whether it was simulated or whatever, you know. And I just. RPGs were the epitome of like bringing in those types of like really putting those audio chips like to use in those like early NES and SNES games.
Yeah.
So it was like sorcery what they were capable of doing back then. It was insane.
Crazy.
I think like GoldenEye really took it above the next level for shooters, and then Halo did it again, and like
Halo has one of the best.
Halo's the best in the biz, dude. Yeah, Halo's the best in the biz. Yeah.
I mean, it's not controversial to say for sure.
I mean, Metal Gear Solid's the best in the biz, but no, we're gonna say Halo.
We're here to talk about things other people, I guess, have played. I don't, whatever.
I agree.
Halo seems like the easier, get.
It's right there. It's literally right there.
Yeah.
All right. So, anything else you guys want to add? Oh, I did want you guys to score it if you want to score it. What's your overall impressions and final score? And do you want to see more of the Final Fantasy 16 universe? I know what happened to Clive, but if they could do DLC of like somebody's backstory or anything like that.
There's no more magic, so it'd have to be prequels.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Again,
or a side story, something that's happening during all of this, So.
I think they'll do something with Sid. Somebody mentioned that offhand, and I think that makes the most sense.
Sid or Dion, I think would be awesome.
Yeah.
Say again, Dan?
I said Sid leading up to the first high, because you get little bits of story like where they talk about reminiscing.
What made him leave?
I'd love to see him and Benedicta being friendly. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. So like, and honestly, just as an excuse also to bring the voice actor back, because like that voice actor of Sid is amazing. So
yeah, Kyle wants to see them being friendly.
Yeah, they don't even have that kind of relationship. I don't think they're like father-daughter. It kind of came off to me.
Yeah,
but yeah, the more Sid would be awesome for sure.
I agree. More Sid would be pretty cool. I'd take that.
I'll give it a letter grade. I'll give it an A.
Okay.
I rarely give out A+, so I mean, but yeah, I'll give it an A.
Stitchy
You're
bastard.
the worst teacher ever. I rarely give out A+.
Pluses and minuses are fake.
I don't. Pluses and minuses are fake.
Minuses aren't real.
Yeah, that's like 0.5s. Get out of here, bro. I don't need your 0.5.
Yeah.
A is really good. I mean, come on, man. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm hovering around 9.5. I've ranked
He hated it, guys. Dan hated it.
Yeah.
I did hate it.
Why don't you just give it an 8.5, Game Informer? Why don't you just do it? Do it.
So in my top 5 now, I had it as starting at number 1, Final Fantasy 7, 10, 9, 8, 4. But now 16 has taken the 4th place. So unfortunately, Final Fantasy 4 is no longer in the top 5. So it's my 4th favorite Final Fantasy. That game's terrible. But yeah, so it's my 4th favorite Final Fantasy. So that speaks volumes, at least for me personally, considering 15 and 13 are at the bottom of the barrel. So
I'll be honest with you, like I knew I would love this game, but I didn't think you would be a hater, but I didn't think you would rate it as high as you're rating it.
yeah, no, I just the story again. And it could, a lot of it could be also because of coming off of 15 and 13 and just me just not being satisfied with how the story was told. I really appreciate, like we said in the beginning, this story is there's a clear through line that you can see, and then there's just all the minutia and all the stuff going on underneath, and like that adds the layers to it. So that's what I really appreciate, that it's like I get what's going on here. It's coherent, and then you're adding to it, and it's really, really great stuff. So that's what I appreciate the most, because I'm the story snob. I care about the story the most out of anything else. So
yeah, same. If I'm putting 60 plus hours into a game, I better be caring about what's going on. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I can honestly say I probably put 60 to 100 hours into the Souls games, and I do not give a crap what's going on. I don't care.
I mean, does
Yeah,
anybody?
It's a
but
lot
I
of
think
like
that game is vibes, and like you're getting vibes out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about like
I'm
getting a
definitely not
coherent
playing
story.
those.
It's just about like, hey, look at this castle made of flesh and there's vaginas
Right.
everywhere or whatever. I don't know what those games are about, but
To banana.
I want to fight that one.
whatever. yeah.
Banana Flesh Castle. Oh,
I just
boy.
imagine that's what it is. I haven't gotten to the end game in any of those. So.
That sounds horrifying.
Those
Is it like
guys were- I don't know, I
Sword
haven't
mixed
touched
with Donkey Kong? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really do grades and stuff like that. I'll just say that I loved it. I think it's like one of the best games I played in a long time. I don't know if it makes a top 10 list. You know, it's a really hard list to crack at this point. There's 1,000 games that are deserved to be called good, you know, and this ranks high. I'll say that, like in terms of like being memorable and being exactly what I want a game to be, which is like a cohesive, linear but dense story with great characters, memorable moments. If you're gonna be playing around with like big cutscenes and stuff like that, I want them to be epic. This game delivers on all of the ingredients that it presents in front of you, in my opinion. And I think that that's like, you know, that's what we give. That's what we say with 10s are. That's what we say A's are. That's what we say, you know, 100 out of 100s.
That's
are,
why I
you know?
didn't hold back. There was just nothing.
So-
I was like, there's nothing I can complain about.
Yeah, I don't have
Yeah.
any qualms, and I don't want anything to be changed. You know,
No.
I just how it is exactly how I want.
Fine,
it, you know,
A
and,
plus. I changed it to A plus. Fine.
All right, thank you. I mean, the only thing I want changed is, can I please somehow, can you just rewrite the ending so I can get Final Fantasy 16 Part 2, please? Or can we just do Final
No doubt.
Fantasy
It's
16
perfect. The ending's perfect.
remake and then just rewrite the
Remake?
ending?
Yeah, do that. Yeah, I like that. Where everyone kind of like, have we been here before? Everyone's subtly like, I don't know.
alternate timeline. You're like, what's
Where
going on?
Sid doesn't
Um,
die, and you know, so you can keep
But yeah,
playing on.
I just you know, I've always been I get all emotional. Derek, prepare yourself, all right?
Oh, here we
Little
go.
Emotions.
Here it is.
Series is very important to me, right? The series is very important to me. As a kid,
Got it.
It blew you
It's
in
like a-
college. It was
it
your
was-
first blowy.
well, I never went to college, but it was like a
It
protective
blew you in
blanket,
high school under the
like a
bleachers.
protective blankie for me when I was a kid. All right, it's a very special series to me, so I'm just very glad that it's come back in a very strong way. Because
Yeah.
I don't hate 13 and 15. I don't hate them, but they are.
You
they kinda-
disrespect 15
I,
too much.
I don't disrespect.
It deserves it.
It deserves. But this
Platinum that
game
mother.
has swung right back in the opposite direction. It's an incredibly strong game overall, and I'm just
The
very
most
happy.
cosplayed property in the history of cosplay. Just FYI.
Wow.
So.
There you go. So I'm just very happy that this game is what it is, and the series is as strong as it is, despite what anybody wants to think. You're an idiot if you don't think this is Final Fantasy. Like, I'm sorry, you're a moron. You're an unstoppable moron.
Gotta
if
let
you
it
don't
go,
think
Dan.
this is Final
Yeah.
Fantasy. So-
Those idiots are gonna be out there, man.
No, that's fine. I'm just letting them know in
You know
case
what,
some,
yeah, and you know what, Dan? They don't deserve it. They don't deserve Final Fantasy. So
No,
let
they
them
don't.
let them not have it and be mad. I don't.
They should go back to Splatoon or whatever dumb crap.
just like Ultima didn't deserve to get what he wanted at the end. They don't deserve Final Fantasy.
They don't
It's all about
deserve it.
arrogance, Dan. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Their
they're-
will is not strong enough for final. It's their will.
That's a
Yeah,
horrible
that
Ultimate
Ultimate-
impression. He's more British. He's way more British. and less
Just
of a surfer
workshop
guy.
it. Just workshop
Yeah.
it. You'll get
I'll
there.
figure it out.
Yeah, you'll get there.
Bro,
Next
well,
week
I'm
we
Ultima.
expect better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
just do it like a Robert De Niro plays Ultima.
Hey, almost Ultima.
Pretty good. It's pretty.
Pretty
I'm
good.
Ultima.
Killed me.
You broke the mother crystals, and I meant you to do it.
Pretty good. Killed me.
Pretty good.
All
All right, that's a wrap on episode 176. Overall, we loved Final Fantasy 16. We'll definitely talk about this game in the Game of the Year shows coming up in 5 months, but definitely loved the entire ride. I was absolutely blown away by how good they did everything. So
Yeah.
I hope those who listened enjoyed the show, and we will see you next week. Bye.